Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be selling because he just bought somebody that close. So.
I assume is there like a clearinghouse up in Tallahassee that keeps track of this stuff? Or?
Well, it's in the secondary, it says.
No. I mean, to whom they're selling, and somehow somebody's got to keep track. That's maybe that would be the hard part is see. Well, but we knew how much he owed the last time. That $5,000 number.
Well, I think they just
Oh, really? I don't know. We took that.
Hey, what's up, man?
They gave us that number, so that's the number we put in our letter. I didn't check anybody's homework. I just
I'm assuming
It's pretty good. Not bad, yeah. We're shut down right now for maintenance. I'm playing with Jimmy. I'm playing with McDavid next Thursday.
So that's why I didn't know what we're talking about here.
I've been out there a few times with him, man. I like that course. It's tough though, bro.
I already scared him 4 times.
I know. You know, listen.
All right, no problem.
You know, it's kind of like you're gonna say like, no crap, but if I hit fairways, I scope my goal.
Morning, Kyle.
When I hit fairways,
Well,
high set, but
yourself?
that place out there better Jeremy hit fairway.
Like,
No, like even if it's just in the trees,
Jeremy got the little chair.
you gotta hit it out backwards. Like you're in jail. It's a tough. You have to hit fairways out there. So it's a great golf course. I know, man. It really is a lot of fun. No, Trump does. No, of course it doesn't have. We don't even reciprocate with Trump. But you know, Jimmy's a member out there. You know, we get second tier stuff, good stuff, but you know, Trump they reciprocate with Lob Lolly, Old Palm, stuff like that. We don't get to do that. But I've heard Old Palm is just yeah. We have battery. I've always said that I don't know who you gotta talk to. I mean, maybe an update, you know what it is, maybe it's courses. Those clubs don't know anything about Cuesta and don't want.
Good evening, sir. How are you, Kyle? Just my sending you a live.
You're wearing a tie. You got me nervous. You're wearing a tie. You got me nervous.
I've been out and about all day.
Pull the site plan from the two postponement and what's the process for that? How do you want to, I would say.
Comes up on the agenda. Then formal request
I asked him earlier.
Yeah, just for that agenda item.
It's $125. Yeah, we have to.
And what we need to say is to tie a shirt on.
That's the price you charge.
Recording in progress.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right.
That's great. Switch it quickly. Switch it. Switch it.
I don't know why this chair always ends up in my
So,
Hey, it's being recorded.
that like demilitarized, so.
Do not cross.
It's okay, I can stretch out.
Yeah.
I've only got 8 in my desk drawer at my office. I do not.
She's not here today. So I'll take it. She's on Zoom.
I felt.
Awesome.
In Martin County, you know how okay. Is your association responsible for maintaining
Levesque.
and taking out invasive trees?
I think they're supposed to. Right
We're being told by the South Dakota Water Management.
Did I talk about this chair before?
I recommend you watch the beginning of the Zoom.
From the work.
We're gonna hold you to about 20 minutes.
About 20 minutes. 17 homes. That's about 20,000
Yeah, I'll send you that tomorrow.
Is that still? The youngest, he's going to be in middle school next year, so looking at the Well, you know, you can apply for the state loan. The health coverage portion of the national state might
Who's steering the boat tonight? Are you? Am I who's chairing the meeting?
So you're gonna have this little
I'll let you read it.
They're ready, and then you can fill
Tom's.
in. I have the worst ever.
Which is fine for him, because he's in a different.
Did they do that?
Well, Tom's. Oh, yeah, no, he's, well, that's the thing, he's a different role, so he's in the group, because they're all in different areas, so. But Miles is just smart enough, but he's not quite at that level. I'm going to ask to move because I want her here. So I'm just going to ask you to run away
Good evening. It is 6 o'clock, and my name is Kyle Stone. I'm the Vice Mayor here for the Village of Tequesta. Tonight, Mayor Molly Young is out of town in Orlando. She's here, though, via Zoom, but due to the fact that she's not here present, I'm going to help moderate this meeting. So it is August 11, 2022. It's 6 p.m. Can we have a call to order?
Mayor Young,
Here.
Vice Mayor Stone,
Here.
Councilmember Niembro,
Here.
Councilmember Brandon,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here. And Councilmember Brandon is going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And then we'll
Do the invocation
we
first?
can do the invocation. So,
Okay. I'm going to have Pastor Paul do our invocation this evening.
Thank you, Council President.
Thank you.
Well, Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for this wonderful village where we live, Father, and enjoy all the pleasantries of life, and we are grateful for this meeting tonight. I would pray, Father, for those who sit on the dais before us tonight, that you would give them wisdom and guidance and direction. For all of our guests, Lord, here tonight, for the different presentations and various items we must discuss, we ask for your guidance there as well. Father, I thank you tonight for this town and for those who are employed here. They're a family, and I'm just so very grateful for each and every one of them. Especially, Father, I pray tonight for our police and fire rescue as they protect us. Thank you for our children going back to school, Father, and protect them and our teachers during this school year. Father, we thank you for our country tonight. With all the issues we are facing, we thank you, Father, for America. We can come freely, Father, and gather in a meeting such as this, and we give you thanks for that. For those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, Father, to provide us for this freedom, which certainly isn't free, and provides us the life of so many of our people. And Father, I pray tonight also for our men and women in uniform that are now, in fact, in grave danger perhaps, Father. Protect them, watch over them and their families. And we commit this evening, Father, to you now. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would any council members like to make any changes to this agenda?
Yes, I would like to move item number 18 into the 16th position and move 16 down to 17, 17 down to 18.
Keith, is that something that we can do, move new business in front of old business?
If the council's pleasure is to rearrange the agenda in that fashion, you may do so.
Any comments from any council members?
Can you just repeat that?
We would be moving item 18 to the front of the agenda, so it would now appears item 16, and 16 would become 17, 17 would become 18.
Why?
I think there could be some developments there, and I think would be important to have it discussed at the front end of the agenda this evening rather than later on.
I'm fine with the way that it's printed. But that's everybody else.
I'm fine with the way it's printed.
Yeah, I'm fine with the way it's printed too, but if you want it changed, I'm fine with that also. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't want it changed. Is that what you're saying? Well, you don't want it changed?
I just don't see the need. I don't understand.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, so I don't see the need either, so do we need to take a vote on that?
There would be a motion to approve the agenda in some form or fashion, whether it's as printed or as modified, would be appropriate at this time.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we move forward with the way it's printed.
Do you have a second? I'm asking this.
You have a
Do I
motion?
have a motion? Does anybody have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
No.
Perfect. So we have some presentations today. We've got 4 of them. First, we have a proclamation with the Florida Water Professionals Month. Ms. Lori, do you mind reading this?
Whereas the Florida Water and Pollution Control Operators Association, organized in 1941, is a nonprofit trade organization that promotes the sustainability of Florida's water utility industry through workforce development, to protect the health of Florida's citizens and to preserve the state's water resources. And whereas this organization offers water and wastewater treatment plant operator and water distribution operator training courses required for the state of Florida's operator licenses, 8 voluntary certification programs, and continuing education programs for operator license renewal. And whereas this organization, in recognizing the importance of the Florida statutes and administrative code that regulate the water industry, acts as liaison between the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and industry personnel, and quality education is critically important to the economic vitality of Tequesta. Whereas the Florida Water and Pollution Control Operators Association recognizes all those who have played a significant part in operating and maintaining drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater systems in Florida by celebrating Florida Water Professionals Month, which applauds their constant efforts to protect our health and environment. Whereas water professionals are often first responders during storms and other catastrophic events, working to ensure safe drinking water and safe disposal of wastewater for our communities. Florida Water Professionals Month is hereby recognized in Tequesta and extends greetings and best wishes to all observing Florida Water Professionals Month.
There's no doubt we all are very grateful for all the fresh water that we have and the hard work that they all do. I believe Jonathan Torres is here. He's the publicity chairman of the Florida Water and Pollution Control Operations Association. All right, number 2, we have a legislative update by Senator Powell. So, Mr. Powell, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I think we have a presentation that should be up, maybe. Wonderful. And I will start off by just saying I'm once again glad to be here in the village of Tequesta. This is still the area that I represent only for a few more months. November 7th or November 8th, after the election, we've gone through the process of redistricting, and a new senator will represent this area. It will be Gail Harrell, who does not have an opponent, so we're 100% sure that Senator Harrell will be representing Tequesta in the months to come. I have had the opportunity to work with you all, a wonderful city manager, Mr. Allen, as well as the former mayor, Mr. D'Ambra, and always great to work with my good friend, village attorney Keith Davis, who I see all the time, so thank you. Congratulations to the election of Mayor Molly Young for being appointed mayor, and Vice Mayor Stone, congratulations on your appointment as vice mayor. And also Mr. Johnson, welcome to the council and congratulations on being elected here. It's always good to see you, Councilmember Brandon, and my friend, former mayor and now Councilmember D'Ambra. We'll start with, I want to get a call. Perfect. Thank you. We won't belabor this. I'm glad to be here in the village of Tequesta, and I'm sad as well. But remember this, you all, as and we'll talk about this as we move forward. I have represented you. I know you. I will still represent you, although technically my district will go a little bit further south. You can always call on me, and we can make sure that we work hard to get some things done here, and we still need to get some funds appropriated for that park. All right, so District 30 is the current district. I represent currently, and people don't know this, but I'll tell you, right now, I represent the largest area in Palm Beach County, and I cover the most land as well as the most cities, or the most municipalities. Currently, I have Cloud Lake, Glen Ridge, Haverhill, Jupiter Inlet Colony, Jupiter, Juno Beach, Lake Park, Loxahatchee Grove, Mangonia Park, North Palm Beach, Palm Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, Palm Beach Shores, Riviera Beach, Royal Palm Beach, Tequesta, West Palm Beach, and West Lake. I'm excited. Of course, if you do not know, we are a bicameral legislature, which means we have a House and a Senate. In order for a bill and the budget to pass, it has to pass in both the House and the Senate. The House is on one side, the Senate's on the other side. There are 120 state representatives representing us right now. My cohort in the House is Representative Snyder, and I am your senator. There are 40 senators. 16 of those senators are Democrat. 24 are Republican, and we have the ability to push unlimited bills, which is only capped by the number of sponsors that we can get on the House side. Like I said, it has to pass in both the House and the Senate. So I can file 120 bills if I want. I just have to make sure that 120 House members or House members have slots. They only get 7 bill slots. The committee assignments. Of course, I sat on Appropriations, which is the most important committee because the only thing we have to do when we go to Tallahassee, the most important thing is to pass the budget. This year we passed $112 billion budget, and all of those items generally go through the Appropriations Committee. I also sit on Rules. Rules is the committee in which, in the Senate, all of the bills that will go to the floor come to the Rules Committee first. Sat on Criminal Justice, Commerce and Tourism, Health Policy, and the alternating chair on Joint Committee on Public Counsel Oversight. The bills that I introduced. This is just a synopsis of a few of the bills I introduced. As I indicated, we have the ability to, I don't know what I did there, but in any case, we have the ability to introduce unlimited numbers of bills. I think this year we introduced about 20. Two of the ones that passed and I thought were really important were Care for Retired Law Enforcement Dogs. This was a bill that was signed by the governor. Unfortunately, as I pushed this bill for the last 5 or 6 years, I did not get invited to the signing. And I will tell you, as it relates to law enforcement officers, I care about our police officers. I am for our police officers as well. For some reason, I did not get an invitation. But this bill was passed in the Senate and in the House. It has my name on it because I passed it in the Senate. It was originally my bill, and it is Senate Bill 226. What it does is it allows for a $300,000 allocation for individuals who want to care for retired law enforcement dogs after they come out of service. What we do know is that these dogs have a heightened sense of security. They are able to do things that people as well as machines are not able to do because of their training, and once they come out of service, they still need to be maintained. They have additional veterinarian costs, and it's a little bit more expensive to care for them. So we've provided an allocation for that this year through Care for Retired Law Enforcement Dogs. Senate Bill 1502 deals with estates and trusts. Sometimes when a person passes away and they have their money in a trust and they have a spouse, some of the language can be convoluted. What we did here was actually codified a little bit of language that was already passed through with regard to things that had happened in the court system. So we just codified and cleaned up some language related to estates and trusts. One of the other important ones that I'll just highlight here was the Family Caregiver for Certified Nursing Assistance Program. What we do know is here in the state of Florida, a lot of our people are elderly, and a lot of people are dealing with taking care of someone who is in the home. When you're taking care of a person in the home, sometimes you have to either quit your job or there's no income coming in, which causes both individuals to be incapacitated, and sometimes the caregiver actually ends up giving out before the person who they're taking care of. This program would have allowed for the caregiver to receive certified nurse assistant training. It's a certain number of hours they would have to take, and they would also be compensated for caring for the person inside of the home through insurance. Now, once they're done with that, after 2 years of doing that, they could actually go and work as a certified nursing assistant outside of the home, which also increases the number of people who we have that are CNAs. That bill moved through a couple of committees but did not pass. We plan on pushing it again this year. A couple other bills dealt with mental health, and then the penalties for nonviolent offenses were also important. Here in the state of Florida, we are 49th in the nation when it comes to dealing with mental health. We saw an uptick in the number of people who had mental health issues during the pandemic, and we really need to monitor this, because if we don't, Florida becomes ground zero for a lot of these mental health crises that we've had with regard to gun violence and a number of other issues. So we need to make sure that we're taking care of that. Appropriations. Of course, we applied for appropriations for Tequesta Regional Park here in Tequesta. That appropriation did not make it into the final budget. There are a number of things that we have to do to make sure that the state understands how important that is to the region as well, not just Palm Beach County, but this entire region. As a planner, I deal with developments of regional impact, and I think this could be something for our entire region, but we have to make sure that the people in Tallahassee understand. We had a good opportunity to work with my good friend, not only Mayor D'Ambra, former Mayor D'Ambra, but my good friend Jack Corey, who is the lobbyist for this particular area, and he's worked diligently, and we will work again to try to make sure that we get some type of appropriation there. My friend Senator Harrell will have to take up that fight, but I'll be right there with her to make sure we're helping. Also, if there are other issues, we talk about infrastructure issues, we need to make sure that we're starting to talk about those right after the election. So right after November, let's start getting those priorities in order so that when we go to Tallahassee, we can fight for them. Some of the bigger items that we got in the budget this year were $10 million for the Cox Science Center down in West Palm Beach, an amazing center that our kids can go to and learn all about science. $750,000 for Florida Atlantic University. There was $25 million in the budget for Palm Beach State College's Dental and Medical Services Technology Building. As we know, whatever happens in the mouth affects the rest of the body, so it's been very important that we get that money in the budget for the dental school in Palm Beach County. And then there were a number of water projects, some of them $500,000 or better. And we've worked on those things. Some of those we've worked on for several years before they actually made it into the budget this year. So don't give up. It's just the beginning. We have to go at it again, and sometimes again, and again, and again, and eventually we will chop down that tree and make sure that we get those funds inside of the budget. Major session issues, I won't stay here too long. There was a $112 billion budget this year. A lot of that, well, a portion of that, I won't say a lot of that, a portion of that was from federal dollars. This was the largest budget in the state's history. We had a health care bill. You may have been hearing about Roe versus Wade, but this year in the legislature we did pass a 15-week abortion ban, meaning that no abortions can happen in the state of Florida after 15 weeks, and that does not have a carve-out for incest or rape. We do have an election integrity bill, Senate Bill 524, which means that we have appropriated funds for, in a nutshell, it does a few other things, but one of the things it does is creates an elections police, which allows an office and funding for elections police officers to go and investigate if they think there's been election crimes. We dealt with redistricting. You see SJR there, that's a Senate Joint Resolution. 100, those are the state maps. The state and House maps are joint resolutions, which means that they go to the Department of Justice and the courts and they're passed. The congressional map is a bill, which means it's signed by the governor. Any bill that's signed by the governor can be vetoed, and in this case, Senate Bill 102 was vetoed by the governor, and we ended up having a special session as the governor drew his own map that the legislature passed on a party line vote. Major issues, education. There's House Bill 1557/Senate Bill 1834, which was the parental rights in education. That passed this year, also called Don't Say Gay. There was the HB 7 bill, which was the Individual Freedoms Act, also known as the Stop Woke Act. That passed. The Education Book Ban bill passed this year, which was HB 1467. HB 865, Senate Bill 758, which is the education, which was the Charter School Review Commission bill, also passed this year. We had the substitution of work experience for post-secondary education requirements that also passed, which allows for students who are getting Bright Futures scholarships to substitute volunteer hours for work hours in order to qualify for that scholarship. And it took into account, sometimes low-income students who need to work in order to be able to go to school. The Education for Student Inmates Bill 722 passed, as well as Senate Bill 1054, Financial Literacy Instructions in Public Schools, requiring that public schools have an elective for financial literacy, which we know for a lot of our students who end up going to college, if they are not financially literate, it can be a lifetime of harm. So that was one of the good bills that we passed this year in session. We did a tax package. I believe this was one of the largest tax packages in the history of the state. We included several tax holidays of note. The back-to-school tax holiday is 2 weeks this time, from July 25th to August 7th. So if you haven't gone school shopping, school has started, you missed that one. The disaster preparedness holiday through June 10th. One of the ones that you can take advantage of right now is the Diaper Holiday, which is from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. So if you have children who are still in diapers, then got them out of that stage, you can take advantage of that very expensive task, which is buying diapers, but you get a tax break on those. And then there's the baby and toddler closing tax holiday from July 1st through June 30th of 2023. Those are just a few of those holidays that we pushed in that legislative budget. Special Session D. I feel like we just came from Special Session D, although it's been over 2 months. May 23rd through the 27th. Here we are in August, but we did push legislation related to property insurance. You will not see an immediate result. That's one of the issues that we had, but we did pass legislation that requires visual inspections for condominium buildings that are 3 stories or higher. That dealt with what happened in Surfside. We also had a new reinsurance program that authorizes $2 billion in our state budget for new reinsurance to assist policyholders in terms of hardening their homes. And the roofing claims, insurers may not refuse to write a new policy or renew a policy on a home with a roof that is less than 15 years old solely based on the roof. Now, there are a number of things going on with regard to property insurance. We visited this in Special Session D. I will tell you that when we go back to Tallahassee in March this year, well, 2023, it's something that we will continue to deal with. We're having a number of insurers pulled out of the state of Florida. It is becoming too expensive to insure our homes. A lot of the people who have called my office are calling my office not about the banning of books or being woke or stopping gay. They're calling my office because they cannot afford the price of rent in Palm Beach County, and because they cannot afford property insurance, or they have lost their property insurance and had to reinsure, and it's cost them much, much more. So this is something that impacts all of us. It's across the board, and we will have to continue to deal with it until we're able to bring those prices down. I'll close by showing you and highlighting my team here. You have Attorney Diane Andre, Ms. Michelle DeMarco, who is in Tallahassee. She's based in Tallahassee, does most of our press releases and writing, and the Chief of Staff, who is here with me today, who GTJD, gets the job done. That is Attorney Kirsty Miles. You can reach us at 850-487-5030 when we are in Tallahassee, or you can call us here in Palm Beach County at 561-650-6880. Thank you all for allowing me the opportunity at least one last time to give you all a legislative update, and make sure my friend Senator Harrell knows that she's expected to do the same when she gets here. I've already told her. I've already tipped her off. So this is a farewell, not goodbye. Of course, I'm still in the process, so we'll still be able to work together. So anything that you need, please do not hesitate to call me. And it looks like that's a shot or a screenshot of the new district, which starts at PGA Boulevard South. So I don't get the mall, the Palm Beach Gardens Mall, but I still get Palm Beach Gardens High School, where I graduated from in 1999. All right, I'll entertain any questions or comments now. Thank you all for allowing me to indulge.
I just wanted to say, thank you for all your work on our behalf. I don't think the village has had a better friend and a stronger advocate than you for the issues that we're passionate about and that we believe in. And even though I consider myself a libertarian and a conservative, working with you has been an absolute pleasure. And as I've already expressed to you, you take a common sense approach to things. And I know I will be rooting and supporting you in your next election effort. But thank you again for everything you've done for the village of Tequesta and for being a good friend. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
There's no doubt you've been a partner to the village, and we appreciate all the work and look forward to continuing working with you. So thank you.
Thank you all. I'm looking forward to continuing working with you all. Tequesta is a jewel. I want to make sure that you all remember that and keep it that way. And don't forget to invite me to a taste of Tequesta. All right? Thank you all. Remember that the life of service is a life that counts, and we appreciate you all. And I'll see you soon.
Perfect. So our third presentation is a introductory presentation by the Palm Beach County Commissions on Ethics. And I believe Gina is here to let us know a little bit about it.
Good evening. My name is Gina Levesque, and I am the Intake and Compliance Manager for the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics. Our office has jurisdiction over the 38 municipalities in the county, and as staff, we are assigned several of the municipalities to go out and visit once a year, just to let you all know that we're still around, and Mr. Davis is probably tired of seeing my face. But I have 20 of the municipalities, including this one. And so I have given you all some of our guides to the Code of Ethics, our top 10 rules that will assist you at a pocket card, and my business card. I am always available and answer the phone, so if anyone has any questions or needs anything from our office, please feel free to call or ask first before you do anything. And we will be happy to provide you with an opinion or provide you a previously written opinion that is on point. And that's all I have.
Perfect. Much
quicker.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I know that you're there to help protect us, and that's important, so we appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, our fourth presentation is from the Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce, the Disaster Resilience Plan. My two friends, Noel Martinez and Chip Armstrong, are here to talk about it.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, Council, thank you so much for having us. I think I heard the mayor's voice. She might be listening.
She is here.
Good evening, and of course, Town Manager, Village Manager. Hello, Mayor. So for the record, my name is Noel Martinez, and I am President and CEO of the Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce. And with me tonight, I have Mr. Chip Armstrong, who is a longtime chamber member, former board member, and current chair of the Economic Development Committee, which was part of the Disaster Resiliency Task Force that put together this Palm Beach North Disaster Resiliency Task Force. First, I'd like to start off by saying thank you. The mayor is super active and very visible within the organization. Council member D'Ambra, Vice Mayor Stone are both very active and have been active over the years. I look forward to meeting I met Council member Johnson a few days ago, and I look forward to getting to know him more. Same with Council member Brandon, and of course, Mr. Allen. He's just amazing to work for. I know I don't have to tell you guys that, but he's great. Does a great job of reaching out to the business community and working with the business community. He's always there when we need his help. He's always there, picks up the phone and helps us out. So thank you. And really that, we take a lot of pride in the relationship that we have with the 10 municipalities. So disaster resiliency is something that has been on the Chamber's radar for years. Let's face it, right? It's only a matter of time before our region gets hit by a major natural disaster. And it's so important that we could refill our prescriptions at the pharmacy, fill up our gas at gas stations, and have access to food at grocery stores. And through the City of Palm Beach Gardens, in collaboration with all 10 of our Palm Beach North municipalities, the Chamber applied for and was awarded a grant to hire a company to help us put together a regional disaster resiliency action plan. And this plan is going to help our region, all 10 of our municipalities, to help mitigate, prepare for, respond to, and recover from extreme weather, climate change, public health, and technology-related emergency events. The project team developed the Resiliency Action Plan with input from our municipalities, the private and public sector, and regional partners who were solicited to gather available information on the region's potential vulnerabilities, identified areas at risk, and create a plan for building a more resilient region. With oversight from the Chamber's Disaster Resiliency Task Force, which included Ms. Judy Jones, who is part of the Fire Department's administration team, who helped us develop this plan. This effort really is the first step to initiate a broader action among the Palm Beach North residents and businesses and municipalities to really improve our resilience. We really want to give you an idea of what that process looked like. So I'm going to run through some slides, and I promise this will be pretty quick. Let's see if I can figure this thing out. So in developing this action plan, the project team identified potential risk and vulnerabilities in the Palm Beach North region. And to do this, we conducted a series of outreach efforts, and these efforts included a survey that was distributed to all 10 of our municipalities, another survey that we sent out to all of our chamber members, and then a series of interviews that we conducted with regional organizations like FDOT, the TPA, the county, FPL, and a lot of other companies like that. Here you can see the top 5 risks ranked, well, the top risks ranked by our local governments. So here are the top 10 that our government said, okay, these are the biggest risks that we face. And as you can see, the top 5 are flooding, high wind and heavy rain, storm surge, sea level rise, and threats to cybersecurity. But then when you look at the business side, a little different. Their top 5 risks there are loss of power, epidemics, threats to cybersecurity, human-caused acts, and of course, flooding. So after reviewing the set of risk and survey findings, the project team conducted a preliminary risk and vulnerability analysis to assess the impact of flooding, storm surge, sea rise, and extreme heat within the Palm Beach North region. And with that data from both of the outreach and the analysis, extreme weather, climate change, technology, and public health were identified as the 4 most important risks to this region. Let's see this thing, if I can, here we go. So we covered these 4 risks during a workshop that was held on March 31st. And the goal was to really set priorities, identify and prioritize strategies, and identify partner roles and responsibilities. We had over 36 stakeholders there, all from the private and public sector, in this workshop. And we asked them to provide input on these 4 risks that we talked about earlier. Tequesta was represented by Fire Rescue Captain Gary Harris, and he was involved in the conversations as well. All this information was used for the development of the action plan, and all this information was used for the development of this action plan. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. It is a huge document. There's a lot of information on there. There was a lot of time spent on it. It is a great document. And really, it's really the first step on really making our region a more resilient region. And we know, like, the quicker our municipalities open after a major disaster, the quicker our businesses are going to open up, and that's why it's so important. So you're probably thinking, okay, so now we've got this amazing plan, right? Now what are we going to do? Like, what's next? So now I'm going to ask Chip to please come up and talk to you a little bit about that.
Thank you, Noel, and good evening. My name is Chip Armstrong, and thanks for having us here tonight. This plan is, the development of this plan highlighted many of the opportunities that the local governments and businesses have in the Palm Beach North region to work together to build the region's resilience. Some of the next steps you'll see on this slide, and while those actions and timeframes and roles are noted in the plan, there are steps the Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce, local governments, and businesses in the region should undertake to begin moving this plan forward. These include those steps. The action plan is only an initial step toward a broader, more comprehensive process of building resilience in Palm Beach North region. Updating this plan every 5 years will provide an opportunity to refresh and evaluate new data, assess the relevancy of strategies based on the data, identify new strategies where needed, and measure progress towards building resilience in the region. I urge you to read the plan, and it will be on the final exam in 2 weeks. It's on the Chamber's website, and if you have any questions, we'll go from there.
Yeah, we'll take some questions if you have any questions or comments.
Any questions?
It's a lot of information, I know. We don't expect you to be experts at it yet. But we're very, very proud of the plan. There was a lot of work put into that. And we can't thank you enough, for your support. We could not do what we do as an organization without the support of our 10 municipalities, and you guys are a very big part of that. So thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, in time, I'll have micro questions, but I'll get with you on those when I get to them. But overall, I think it's great having a plan for each municipality. I appreciate it.
Mayor Young, do you have a question?
Yeah, first, I know Noel already mentioned them, but I did want to thank both Judy Jones and Captain Harris for participating. It's very important for each municipality to participate with this. I did read the whole plan, and it is impressive. I felt like you guys thought of everything. I guess my question is, what are the next steps now that the plan's here? The next steps are outlined, but who's taking the charge with those? Is the chamber still taking the lead, or the municipality supposed to take the lead now?
Yeah, I think that's the big next step, right? Is to figure out who's going to really run with this and who's going to really take the lead. I think right now this is our baby, and this is something that there are a lot of things in this plan that we can't accomplish, right? We are not a government entity. We're a membership organization. So, but the good thing is that we've got a great relationship with our municipal partners. We've got a great relationship with the county. And, the way that we look at it, Mayor, is that this is now a checkbook, an open checkbook to go back to the DEO and say, hey, we've got some needs in, let's just say, Tequesta, in the village of Tequesta. And we are going to go back for some dollars to help with our infrastructure, to help harden our infrastructure. So I think, if we go at this as a region together, we should have an opportunity to really bring some dollars back to help us with this.
Correct. I think that, with any state agency giving out grants, the DEO, if you can show this much collaboration, it's easy for them to say that sounds like a great project because you're all collectively on the same page. So if you have some infrastructure projects, this could be used as a little stepping stone to help get those approvals. And resiliency is a pretty big issue in the state right now.
And Mayor, right now, we still have a couple more municipalities that we need to visit, that we're scheduled to visit So I think our first step was to do this presentation to all 10 of the municipalities. Then we're going to do the presentation to the county, and then we'll go from there. We've gotten a lot of feedback from the municipalities that we've met with, and then we're going to take that feedback, and then our task force is going to come up with a plan on how to implement this.
Question. First of all, you guys, the grant money you got was well spent, because the plan you put together, as the mayor said, is very comprehensive. It's very well done. So again, thank everybody for the work that was involved. Senator Brown mentioned earlier, the issue of homeowners insurance, and I've talked to a few folks, and I know that both from a business perspective, people are looking at 40-50% rate increases in their homeowners insurance or their liability and building coverages, and that obviously feeds through to the businesses if they're leasing property or they're leasing space. It also goes through to renters who may be leasing apartments or homes or whatever, and obviously the homeowners who own them as well. This kind of an initiative obviously should have some beneficial impact ultimately with respect to those kinds of risks that people are concerned about, that the insurers are concerned about, that they're trying to find ways to mitigate. I know this is early on, but given what Senator Brown said earlier this evening, has there been any discussions yet between these municipalities, your organization, with people like Senator Brown, who are looking at this from a larger scale standpoint, statewide standpoint, and looking at the whole issue of risk mitigation and the impact on insurance rates?
So not yet. Short answer, no, not yet. I think it's still very, very early on. I think this is going to be a part of our strategic plan moving forward. We're in the chamber's in the process of putting together our refreshing our strategic plan. So disaster resiliency is going to definitely be a part of that. Okay. When we're up in Tallahassee, this is something that we're going to be talking about and advocating for. I know they hear us talk about disaster resiliency, and it's currently a part of our. It actually is currently a part of our current strategic plan. So, no, not yet, but they will be hearing about it for sure.
So I would think that there'd be other opportunities for other partners to collaborate, especially resiliency and insurance is connected. I'm a realtor by trade, and I can tell you, sell everything from single-family houses to development sites. And I will tell you that selling a house that has a roof that's 15 years old is impossible with a mortgage. If you're living in an older community, and you have an older house and you want to sell your house, it's pretty difficult to get a mortgage on a house. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I think since resiliency is such a big item, there's a lot of opportunities there for everybody to collaborate on the same page.
Thank you.
Yeah, such a big opportunity and a big task to try to tackle, and kudos to you guys for starting this. I know I've been involved in some of the conversations 2 years ago, and so happy to see we're at this point, and we got the funding necessary to move forward. So any way we can support you, I'm behind you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support and collaboration. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So now we're at the opportunity for communication from citizens. Or do we have any comments that are?
A lot of citizen comment cards, which are all for specific
Items?
on the agenda, so
Okay.
none that are just general.
Sure. So what that means is if there is a particular item and you want to talk about that comment at that time, we'll make sure you have that opportunity to talk about it. Communication from council.
Nothing for me.
The only thing I was just going to share is I took my yearly international trip, and I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with some of their government leaders. And some of the things they were sharing that they are either working on adding or just implicating stuff that they already have in place but never really utilized it. There were several things that are very similar to what we're trying to do here in Tequesta and Florida as a whole. So I just want to share with you guys that kind of across the board, there's things being looked at such as environmental aspects and coastlines. One of the things that stood out in particular was that they now implement a environmental agency approval before any building process comes through. They already had it in place, they just never really utilized it, but to preserve their coastlines, they are now implemented. I just thought it was interesting because that's stuff that we've been talking about, so that's it.
Nothing this evening.
I have nothing at this moment, at this time. Mayor Young.
I'd just like to thank Public Safety for another great Operation Safe Start on Wednesday. So thank you for all that you do for our community and the children going back to school. It's an important day.
Absolutely. On to standing reports. Village Attorney.
No report tonight, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Village Manager.
I do have a few things. Let's see if I can pull up this picture real quick. Let's see if it works. Maybe. Let's see. Didn't go.
Top right corner.
Is it? Well, I clicked on it already. All right. Well, if you get an opportunity to go out to Tequesta Park, this budget year, the council did approve some money to fix up the fields. We put grass in. The infield looks great. I was going to showcase that in the picture. Technical difficulty, so appreciate Doug and Greg with their work out there on that. We did have a status meeting, Remembrance Park. We hope to be turning that over to council maybe September in a workshop, the final designs, just to go over it. It should match the master plan or very close to it. Treasure Coast Planning meeting, Treasure Coast Planning Council meeting for the public workshop is March 26th, or 22nd, sorry. And so they will be able to provide a draft to the council to review. The business flare that we recently signed up for, the foot traffic analysis, that should be coming at the end of August, and we will have a September workshop to go over that as well. Just would like this last week we attended the Lrpi, Loxahatchee River Project Initiative. They have a board that meets, that reviews projects to recommend to the state. There were 8 projects that were presented. We finished number 1 out of 8 for the Dover Ditch project, so we will be submitting as a number 1 project for the state to fund in the amount of $350,000. It is a 50-50 share. We have budgeted that. Jupiter will pay 40% of that project, so we were number 1 of 8, and so hopefully that project gets funded at the state level and we can move forward with that. Just echo what I think Mayor Young said about our police, that safe start. Yesterday, not to get too personal, my kid was hit by in his bus, hit by a car. So it's just what our police department does and our fire department by going to those bus stops and following. In our area we don't have that. So kudos to our police department, and then just like to recognize Lori McWilliams for her work on that that supply drive. I mean, that was her idea, her baby from the start, and all she needed is a green light from me, and she took it over. And with a great program, we had 17 teachers that were funded in that program, and just amazing support from the community. And we got a lot of letters of support or thank yous from those teachers. So kudos to Lori for that. That's all I have. Thanks again.
And Jeremy, if I could just add to that, I agree with the school drive. I've gotten personal messages from teachers and parents of teachers who are so thankful for that drive, truly thankful. So great job, and I hope we could do it again next year.
Yeah, it was so good we might have to keep doing it. On to the police department is Assistant Chief McGrew here.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Village Attorney, Village Manager, and Village Clerk. For the month of July, the Police Department attended the First Baptist School Bible School, where we displayed different police equipment, such as our cars and such as that. We also had an interview with WPTV regarding our virtual reality simulator. Chief Medina sat on the Utilities Director interviews. We also hired Julian Lee to replace Amber Krauts, who moved on to FPNL. So we would like to welcome Julian to the Tequesta family. The Chief and I attended the Florida Police Chief Conference, Summer Conference, held in West Palm. And July marked the end of our nautical clubs, and we'd like to say a special thank you to all the police department staff, and a very special thank you to Jeff Malik, who is also a volunteer and who lives here in the village. He attended a lot of the outings and without him, we couldn't have done a lot of it. So special thank you to Jeff. Chief Medina met with our accreditation manager, Jeff Owens, during July, and also with Juneau PD Chief Brian Smith. For the month of July, for the Bureau of Land Management, we had 233 contacts on the Jupiter Inlet property, and we provided 39.5 hours of service to the Bureau of Land Management. For the Marine Unit, we had 178 contacts, 9 vessel stops, 9 warnings, and 3 calls for service during the month of July. For training, Corporal Jesse DeCosta and Officer John Franklin attended the Crime Prevention through Environmental Design that was held in Orlando. We also held virtual reality simulator training for all the personnel, and we held building forced entry training for all our personnel. And we'd like to say thank you to Captain Gary Harris for the fire department. He's the one that provided that training for our officers. Lieutenant Smolin held active shooter training for the Good Shepherd Church and Mary Mother Light Church. And on August 18th, Corporal DeCosta will host the Harvey Academy and have active shooter training for them. As y'all have mentioned before, with the starting of the school this past Wednesday, we initiated Operation Safe Start. For those who do not know what Operation Safe Start is, it's when the police department and fire department go to different bus stops and remind everyone through their visibility that school is back in session, and to watch out for our children as they travel back and forth to work. You know, the last thing we want is something, unfortunately, like the manager's son, for a bus to get rear-ended, or worse, for a child to get hit. So we make sure we're out there running radar and we're very visible at these bus stops and following the buses. And that concludes our report for July.
Any questions?
So you did mention that you guys were radaring at the bus stops. Unfortunately, I think it flip-flopped on you guys because the kids were running to see how fast they could run. I only wanted to ask, is there anything else that we can do to help stop the solicitors to keep coming and coming and coming?
We'll try our best to put it out on our social media some more, and put it up once again on our message board. And we just need, as soon as someone approaches a house or resident to solicit, we need them to call right away, you know, so we can get there to contact the solicitors.
Because it does tend to be the same companies as well. I mean, is there a point where we try to contact the actual leader of the company,
Yes,
not just
when we catch a solicitor, we actually call their boss and say, hey, there's no soliciting in Tequesta. If you want to solicit, you have to come fill out a form and apply to solicit.
Okay. I mean, we're here to help. We're kind of running out of options.
Yeah,
and they just keep coming and coming and coming.
We contact their supervisor right then.
Okay, thank you.
I'm aware of an incident that happened yesterday. A resident called and they were quick to respond.
I know, I mean, trust me, I call all the time, especially when they park on my yard, but I'm just curious if there's anything else, because they do keep coming. We don't have gates, obviously, and we just want to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe from people wandering around and taking notes and pictures of houses.
Yeah.
That's really the disturbing part that they're doing lately.
Of course. And we want everyone to feel safe.
Thank you.
Taking pictures?
They do. They take pictures of your house.
That's
Mary
allowed,
Young.
actually, but.
I know.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
No, thank you.
We're good, thank you. Fire report, Chief.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Village Manager, Village Attorney, and Village Clerk. First, I do believe you all have a copy of my written report. I'm going to skip over some of the meetings and just hit some of the highlights here. We did host the fire chiefs meeting, the fire chiefs of the Palm Beaches on July 21st. So that's an opportunity for all the fire chiefs to come up here, visit with us, and basically talk about all kinds of things, whether it's legislative in nature or something that's happening here locally. So I think it's always good when we can host that. Our department training and operations this month, we focused on really finishing up some of our maintenance on our trucks. So All the trucks were pump tested, all trucks passed. We had a few minor things that our county maintenance contract is taking care of right now. We also conducted the ladder testing. That's for the ladder truck that we have, as well as all the ground ladders. If you ever want to see something impressive, come over when they're testing the ground ladders. You'll be impressed and you'll never climb a ladder again. They literally bend them almost in half. We're looking forward to some live fire training here for our rapid intervention teams in September. I think all 3 shifts at this point have been scheduled, so we are looking forward to that. We did complete water rescue drills the end of July 26th through 28th, so that was with each shift. We are repeating some of that training again in September. I believe I mentioned this last time, but I do need to reiterate, unfortunately, we do have 3 personnel who are battling cancer, 2 of them who are actually out, and I would ask for everybody to keep them in your prayers. Honestly, they do need all the support we can give them. Public outreach. We also attended the Baptist Church event on July 15th. And of course, we participated in Operation Safe Start. To add to that, I know that was a brainchild of Captain Pike before he retired, and also our very own Peter Allen in the fire department supported it for many years. So it's something near and dear to our heart. We want to make sure the kids get off to a good start every year. So that's literally what that's about. I know personally, I was in on Wednesday, and I enjoy it. It's fun to get out and just chat with the community when they're not in the back of one of our ambulances. So we definitely like that a little bit more. We have September 11th coming up, and we do intend to do the Remembrance Day again on that day. We have traditionally held that around 9 a.m. I do believe we're going to go for an earlier start this year. I don't have the time yet. I'm looking to see what works best, to maybe work with area churches on when they start their programs. But I would invite everybody to come out on September 11th and see us. It'll be about a half-hour long program, probably starting here in the chambers and then moving out to the memorial. COVID-19. I think we're all tired of talking about COVID-19. It's out there. Pay attention. Wash your hands. Get vaccinated if you haven't. Tropics. We're watching the tropics. We've had some luck so far this year. Hopefully it holds between the Saharan dust and just some unfavorable weather patterns. But we continue to monitor it. We do have our chili cook-off coming up, November 12th. So obviously, I think most of you know by now, we're very proud of our cook-off. We're very proud of our chili. And we expect another big turnout this year. It will be at Paradise Park again. And we're once again looking for support of the village. I believe have some more work to do with the manager on some of that, but we want to see everybody out there. That's what it amounts to. That's to support our veterans groups and our very own Tequesta Friends of Public Safety. And last, just want to make sure that the police department knows how much we're going to miss Amber Krause. We're happy to see Jillian come on board, but Amber was a tough loss for you guys, I know that. And she helped the fire department in many, many unseen ways. So if she's listening, thank you. And if not, please pass that along from the fire rescue department. And that concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Any questions from the council?
One quick question, Chief. Historically, prior to a lot of the protective gear that is used today, people in the fire community were exposed to a lot of risks that resulted in a lot of medical issues. So with the incidents we've had with 3 individuals now with cancer, is this just bad luck of the draw, or are these, do we believe they're related to, the work, or do we have a handle on this? I'm just curious.
Okay, so are they related to work? Recent studies, and of course Florida statute now says absolutely they are an on-duty, considered an on-duty injury. So we have to look at that. What we've done here at Tequesta Fire Rescue to address cancer in our defense of our personnel, if you go back a few years ago, we started with no smoke devices attaching to all of our older equipment. Of course, through council's approval, we're obviously replacing some of those vehicles as well. The other things we've done is we have a countywide decontamination policy. So after they They go to a structure fire, any fire for that matter, where they can become contaminated with carcinogens, which is in all smoke. They go through a decon process. That's a countywide policy signed off by all the fire chiefs. We have instituted the LifeScan physical, which is a more in-depth physical. And I'm actually, in recent talks, because of the 3 people that we currently have, I'm looking at forming a committee that will steer LifeScan in different directions perhaps, so that we're even more adept at catching cancer early. We've also pushed for new bunker gear. I think if you look at my past budgets for sure, and of course I think there was a request a few years ago to convert some of the capital expenditures into a group of 10 sets of gear. We have moved to have 2 full sets of gear for everybody. And with the exception of really quite honestly, a very difficult year with supply chains, we're there. I'm currently waiting for 6 sets of bunker gear that I ordered in November. And right now they're telling me I may not see it for another 3 to 4 months. So, I mean, that's unheard of. Normally this stuff is 6 to 8 weeks. So yeah, we're taking action. Is it a run of bad luck? Yeah, I think it's bad luck when anybody gets cancer. For 3 people in one small fire department to have cancer, it's unheard of. I've been here a long time, and I can remember a few people getting a little bit of, maybe a skin cancer removed or something like that, but nothing as significant as what I've seen just in the last year and a half or 2.
Well,
and it is a absolute strain on the entire department. Scheduling is difficult. It's obviously a stressful situation, not just for the people that are sick, but for all their brothers and sisters. We take this very personally.
I mean, that's why I've asked the question, and I think, councils historically have expressed a desire to make sure that when it comes to the safety of whether it's the police or the fire, either one, that you guys have the equipment and the things that you need to provide the very safest environment that we can for our public safety folks. So if there's other things that need to be done, if there's other things that you believe you need as you put this committee together and you look at what the issues are, please come back to us and let us know, because my heart's going out to these three people. And like you said, in a small group like we have, the rate of incidence is awfully high. So I want to make sure if there is something work-related, we've taken every pain to address it and make sure we eliminate that risk if we can.
I appreciate that, and I'll absolutely take that back to the group. Any other questions?
Mayor Young, do you have a question?
I do not, thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you for hearing me.
On to the utility side, Mr. Nate.
Mayor, we didn't have a report this month. It didn't get formulated, but we will make sure we have one next month. The new utility director will be on board and be able to give you a full presentation. So.
Perfect. Okay, on to the regular agenda, old business, number 16. We were having a conceptual presentation by G2HO to update the Starbucks architectural evaluation.
Yes, good evening. Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, council members, the subject application Starbucks was approved by the Village Council at the June 9th meeting. The applicant would like to make aesthetic changes to the architecture elevation, and they have a presentation.
Thank you, Nelsa. Mayor, Vice Mayor, we're trying to get I think we're having a little technical difficulty. No? Okay.
We got Brad here, there's no technical.
Okay, there's no technical difficulties, thank goodness.
If he wasn't
there
here,
we
we'd
go.
have major difficulties.
On behalf of Starbucks Corporate, who we did this project and came through you all with, we discussed with them the potential of just looking at, even though we know the project's approved, it's approved as we submitted it, we can go ahead, while they were formulating their design, they thought they would look at some alternatives on the elevations that might be a little bit more conducive to what the council had said at the meeting. And so I don't have the clicker here. Somebody took it?
No, you ready? I'll be.
Oh, okay.
so we
You're
can
gonna,
figure it out.
you're gonna run it? Okay, thanks. I'm gonna go very briefly through this. Yes, ma'am, thank you. Okay, so we know where the location is at Village Drive and US 1 in the County Line Shopping Plaza. Okay, you want to hit it, Jeremy?
Yep.
Thank you. Oop, there. Okay, you can go ahead and hit it again. We come in here today to just give you what we think is an improvement to the project, and to also present to the council for discussion, so that we might be able to do this on an administrative basis, since we are actively trying to get everything done because the lease is in place and they're already paying lease on it. So based on the discussion, we updated the drawings, and this is what I'm going to be showing you today. I'm going to show you, this was the elevation landscape, the project that we brought to you earlier that is approved. I think it's going to show it without the land. No, it did not. Can you go back one? Okay. There we go. That is the elevation that is facing the shopping center. It used to be the bank building. I'm not having a good go with the arrow.
Just point at me and then
Okay.
I'll click it. And it'll
Okay, go ahead,
make
click.
it
Good,
work.
click it. Thank
All right.
you.
Two-stage clicker.
Is your salary pretty heavy that I might have to pay for this or what? Sorry. Tell me. Okay, so again, this is a proposed architectural rendering of the building. Same view with the landscape. If you could go ahead and hit it, I'm hoping we're going to see. There we go. This is around the building. We have, this is the approved elevation, and if you'll hit it again, you'll see that we toned the colors down. We made them more conducive and compatible to the shopping center, and we also added shutters on the building to give it another architectural feature that we feel it really makes the building a lot softer. And it also, we think it reflects the coastal architecture in the area. If you could hit that again. This is the back, this is the drive-through side, so this is facing US 1. However, we have a berm and a very large buffer that is screening this area. This will be one, of course, as you know, one of the longest queuing lines that Starbucks has. Go ahead. So I know that you had the packages. The public was able to see them. We would ask the commission, or the council, I'm sorry, if you would give us your consent, and then we would go through your administrative process with your planning staff, hopefully, and get cranking on building the building. So, thank you.
So just to elaborate a little bit on that, our code does allow for the community development director to approve these changes because they are minor changes, aesthetically fits that. However, the developer is just looking for additional comments or you kind of, stamp approval and just, know that they were trying to work with us. I think it was the intent of this presentation more than, it's not a yay or nay type, it's more of a feedback conversation, so.
Any comments from the council?
I just want to say, as you indicated, the original design was approved, and you have that approval, but the fact that Starbucks did hear some of the commentary that was made, and again, wanting to be a responsible, I think, partner with the village, and listening to some of the input, the fact that they would then come back and provide what I think is an improved design. It does have a little more of the coastal elements. I think it's a little more appealing. I just want to, again, thank them for being responsive, and I'm very much in favor of proceeding with the concept, with these changes that they've proposed.
Thank you.
Mr. Gentile.
Yes.
I'd like to say thank you.
Okay.
Whatever you did to get the models for every angle that we will be getting. Again, in my opinion, when we get to see these things, it allows not just us, but our residents to see exactly what they're going to be getting, and not just a hand-drawn or computer-drawn model. Visually, it just really helps absorb what we're all on board with. Secondly, the only question I had is, we're still planning to buffer the US one piece,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Hmm?
So I still don't love that the takeout window is on US one, but I understand that was approved. But I did want to say thank you. The color reductions are much easier on the eyes, as well as with the surrounding area that you will be placed in. The screening is great. The east wall, so much better.
Yes.
No more
Right.
shipping container.
Right.
And I do want to compliment you on the added wall lighting. I think they'll look very nice during the sunset hours and the early mornings that you guys will be open, or they will be
Right.
open, as well as safety for around the building, which our PD, I'm sure, could appreciate. It helps
Right.
them see around what's going on. So thank
Great.
you, and thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
back and making
No problem.
those adjustments. They're small adjustments, but they're huge
Mhm.
adjustments.
Yeah, we
But
think
again,
so. And the manager, the eastern manager here in South Florida that actually lives here in the area, really likes this one as well. So
Yeah,
she
I
was
think it's-
pleased with us pushing to go through and look at it, and them agreeing to do that was really big on their part. So,
Sure, I mean, again, as a Floridian, I'm not afraid to look a little Florida. I mean,
Right.
that's who we are. When people
Right.
are here, they should know that they're in the Florida atmosphere. But again, just really big. I know you work with a lot of our developers that come in, and I just really appreciate you making sure that they are getting all of their visual models put together as a full package, that
Right.
all of us know exactly what we're getting from here on out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's no doubt there's been a collective group of people involved in this project, and it's nice to see everyone working together, getting that feedback. I know for the last 3.5 years that I've been up here, never come across any situation where we haven't been able to work with
Right.
your group, and so thank you.
Thank you.
You know,
And I'd
Council
like to
Member
echo what
Danvers said
everyone
exactly what I was
else
gonna
has
say.
said. You know, this was approved as is, the original elevations, they did not have to change it. I know I was one of the few who did not approve of the original building elevation aesthetics for this specific location. So I'd really like to thank Starbucks for going back and redoing the elevations. It is such an improvement, they're lovely, it's gonna look so much better at the location of this store, so thank you so much.
Good. We'll let them know.
All good. Is this something that we need to open up to conversation to the public?
No.
You can, you have the choice. I don't think you have to, so it'd be a good idea.
Yeah. Any comments from the public? Anybody have a comment? No comment? Okay. Is this something that we need to take a vote on?
Nope.
Nope.
There's no action.
No action.
So I'm going to take that it's a consensus, and we'll work with your planning director and get this thing done so we can get it built.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments.
All right, number 17, the reconsideration. Mr. Davis.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'll read the ordinance by title and then give you some background, which is in my agenda item memo, but I'll go ahead and get that on the record. So this is on reconsideration, Ordinance 1122, an ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, imposing a moratorium on acceptance of new applications for development orders or building permits for new development and/or redevelopment, which increases building height or number of stories, increases lot coverage, or changes the existing building footprint, which proposes changes to the appearance of building exterior or to the site landscaping in mixed-use C1, C2, C3, R2, and R3 zoning districts as set forth in Chapter 78 of the Village of Tequesta Code of Ordinances and pursuant to the requirements of the Village of Tequesta Comprehensive Development Plan, providing that the moratorium will be in effect for a period of 6 months, directing the village staff to undertake comprehensive review of the village's existing land development codes with an emphasis on coordination between aesthetic and landscaping regulations and coastal conservation, directing additional coordination with the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council pursuant to a current agreement with the village, providing for continuation or termination of said moratorium, providing conflicts clause and severability clause, providing for an effective date. This ordinance was originally considered by the Village Council on May 12th of this year, at which time the council by 3-2 vote decided to not adopt on first reading. On July 14th, a member of the prevailing side of the original vote made a motion to reconsider the matter, and the council unanimously agreed to reconsider the ordinance. Council engaged in full discussion with public comment and input at its August 1st workshop. Ordinance 1122 is now back before the council for reconsideration on first reading. The council has options on how to proceed at this time. One, on a motion to adopt Ordinance 1122 on first reading as written, the council may adopt the ordinance on first reading, which will move it to second reading in September. Two, on a motion to adopt Ordinance 1122 on first reading with modifications, the council may adopt the ordinance on first reading with whatever substantive changes the council believes to be appropriate. By way of example, the length of the moratorium can be changed from 6 months to a different time. It is not advisable to extend the length of the moratorium to a longer period of time. However, a shorter period of time would not create additional legal exposure for the village. In addition, the scope of the moratorium could be changed to limit its reach to a single zoning district or less zoning districts than are currently called out in the moratorium. Narrowing the scope of the moratorium would not create additional legal exposure for the village. An additional option in terms of modification, the land development regulations being considered for revision could be modified by adding or removing substantive code requirements to be reviewed for change during the pendency of the moratorium. Depending on direction given here, the legal exposure could be altered in either a positive or negative direction. After any motion to approve with modifications, the ordinance would move to second reading as modified in September. Number three, the third option on a motion to not adopt Ordinance 1122 on first reading, the council may again not adopt the ordinance. The matter would again be closed and no second reading would occur. So that's where you are, and this is presented to you now for discussion and action on reconsideration.
Perfect. Any comments from the council on this?
Nothing has changed for me. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought this back to workshop in July, just to give everybody a chance to kind of take a breath, come in and state their case. And nothing that was presented from any of the residents or the like has swayed me to change my mind. So I'm pretty solid where I am right now.
I don't have any additional comments than I did previously.
To add to what Aaron is saying, we have discussed this previously. We've had a process where we've allowed or we've encouraged developers to come to us with a concept and get our feedback and get our input before they develop a final plan and bring it through P&Z and bring it to the council for final approval. That process to date has worked well. I think in every instance where we've had a significant development come forth over the last few years, we have had developers who recognize that it is in their best interest to work in harmony with the community, work in harmony with this council. We're not unreasonable. And that's been demonstrated with multiple projects. The Austrade building, the Mastriani building, which completely changed after they got council feedback, and the revised building that they came forth with was warmly embraced by this council. And I think Starbucks is the latest example, where even though they had a final approval, they still listened to some of the comments that the council made, and they came back and made changes to ensure, again, that they would be welcomed into the community and they would be respectful of the feedback and input they had received. So as long as that continues, and as long as we have developers who are responsible and responsive to the community, I see no need to put in place a moratorium that would impact responsible developers. I do agree that ultimately a lot of the items that are discussed, we do want to codify. So I will continue to work on that, and I believe we will ultimately implement those, but I don't see a need for a moratorium at this point in time. If however, going forward, we found developers that were not responsive in that way, it might change my view of it. But right now, as long as we have people that, again, continue to be responsive embrace what the community says, then I agree with my fellow councilman that at this point, we do not need a moratorium in place.
So I brought this back because I thought it was important to kind of, again, hear more about from the residents and make sure the residents understood what our ability is and limitations too, with regards to increasing, decreasing density or height. And I think we've done a good job of explaining that. And at this time, I don't see how a moratorium would fix a particular problem. And so that's kind of where I'm at this time. So, Mayor Young, do you have any comments?
No comments. My position stands the same as did in May.
Okay, let's open it up to the public. Any public comments?
So we have Jonathan Griffiths.
Good evening, I'm Jonathan Griffiths. I live at 375 Beach Road, and I'm a full-time resident of Tequesta. So based on what I just heard, I'm not sure any remarks are going to make any difference in the context of where you are in your respective positions. But I will say I'm glad it was brought back, by the Vice Mayor. I think it's a good thing to really think through really, really hard. Our quality of life in Tequesta and particularly on the island is very unique. And we have one chance essentially to do this right in the context of what the future development is going to be and look like, particularly on the island, because it is a finite piece of real estate with no new building sites. Anything that's going to be done pursuant to the Sea Glass or the Savoy or any future projects are going on existing property. So there's no more real estate. So my feeling is that, and the feeling of many of our residents that I speak with quite a bit, is that a 6-month moratorium in the context of the 100-year ramification or more on the island is nothing. It's a spit in the ocean. So that's my feeling on it, and I think that to maintain the quality of life, 6 months is tapping the brakes. There's nothing wrong with that. We'll take a look at it. Some of the new projects, in particular the Savoy, are narrowing our view corridors across Beach Road to the ocean. So some of the side setback issues I think are very, very important in that context, particularly for our projects on the other side of Beach Road. And there's many other things, that go along, obviously, with taking a look at the planning and zoning regulations that would still produce quality projects, very nice projects, and maybe with some minor revisions and fine tuning to those regulations, it would be better for the entire community on the island particularly. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Powell.
He just stepped out for a phone call.
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank you all for taking the time to be public servants. We really do appreciate what you do and what you do for the village of Tequesta. I'm a lifelong native. I grew up in what was known as Hunt Club, now Turtle Creek, and I live currently on island. I think Mr. Griffiths said it very eloquently. I don't think there's that much more that I can add to it, other than I spend time also in Tallahassee, so I've listened to a lot about resiliency. I've listened to a lot about Surfside. I've listened a lot about concerns with hurricanes. Obviously, when you change the footprints and you change what's happening on the island, you may want to take those in consideration in the building. I sit in my condo. It's at 325 Beach Road, and I often, when we get the huge rains, I watch the water coming up through the sewer system instead of going down. I see the flooding, so I just want to make sure those things are looked at, because for safety, obviously. Anyways, I agree with my compatriot there on that maybe it would be a good idea to look at it and take just slow it down a little bit. I am concerned. I really don't want to look like some of the other areas south of us in Florida that is right. I live in Jupiter, not further south. So just want to give that some thought. I do think that there is room to do what the developers want. I think they've been doing a beautiful job, just we need to maybe really revisit it and look at it a little bit carefully. Also want to point out, you have an amazing ecosystem here. Those of us who go out on the beach at night, see all the turtles nesting. They're literally nesting up by the stairwell, so there's some concern with that as well. Those of us who've lived through the last season and watched the backup with the bridges, et cetera, obviously there's concern there as well. So anyways, I thank you all for what you do for us, and I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Powell? Does anybody want to grab him? He just stepped outside, if anybody. Okay, we'll keep moving forward. Any, anybody like to make a motion?
Hi, Vice Mayor Stone, I'm sorry,
Yes.
there's no more public comment. I do just want to bring up a point. I want to kind of justify why I still maintain my stance from May without regurgitating everything from May. And I'm not one to point fingers, I really don't like doing that, but there's two examples on tonight's agenda why, you know, make me feel like I need to support the moratorium because the Starbucks was approved as is. They didn't come for a conceptual meeting presentation before council before they submit their application. Not many people commented on the aesthetics at all. So that's an example of why I think we need to put a pause so we can finish going through our design guidelines and any code change recommendations with Treasure Coast Regional Planning as well as NILSA for R3. The Savoy project is another one. They did not come to council for a conceptual design presentation. So to me, those are two prime examples of, I'm not gonna say developers aren't working on this, but projects that we're not seeing beforehand, that we're working on design guidelines and codes, and we need the time to finish that. I feel really strongly about that. I sat with Jeremy and NILSA to go through a bunch of questions I had on the 300 application, and a lot of them NILSA is going to be looking at in the codes and the design recommendations she's working on. So, there's just two prime examples on this agenda of what I personally feel like the moratorium is necessary. So I just want to kind of put that out there to justify my reasoning.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'm going to make a motion that, Keith, what was that third option? A motion to deny?
On a motion to not adopt ordinance 1122 on first reading, the council may not adopt the ordinance. The matter would again be closed and no second reading would occur.
I'll make a motion not to adopt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Anybody opposed?
Opposed?
3 in favor, 2 opposed. On to new business, number 18. Nilsa, I believe this is you.
We need to do swear in.
Keith, this is,
This is
you need to swear people in?
number 18.
Yeah, are we proceeding?
We are proceeding.
Whatever you, I have something to say before we get started, if it's possible.
That would not be part of the evidence for the.
That's correct.
You might want to hear from the applicant.
Okay.
Sure.
And that might resolve a few things this evening. And we appreciate, we brought this project before the Planning Commission, and you have your recommendation from them. We talked with the development team, and just as the mayor indicated and other commissioners did, we thought it might be good to step back for a few weeks and maybe discuss the aesthetics of the building, because there may be some opportunities for us to work with the village on that. This project came in between. There was not really, we did not know there was a desire when this came in for the original application for the pre-app or the conceptual process. We know now that we want to bring everything to the village for the conceptual review, and we will certainly, anybody that we're working with will do that. This came in though in between, and we really didn't understand that that was the direction the village wanted to go. So what we would like to do is ask to be postponed till September 8th, which is your next meeting, and with that we have a discussion on the aesthetics. The project, and again, this is not for evidence, we're going to make a presentation, but the project meets all your land development regulations and everything. We made sure that we didn't have to ask for anything, and we have concurrence with all the agencies. But that's being said, I would like to ask for just a continuance or a postponement, whatever that Keith would say, to the September 8th meeting, so that we may hopefully work with you all on the aesthetics of this, just so we don't come back and ask you after the approval. So, okay?
Any comments from the council?
Well, I had questions, so I guess I'll be asking Nielsa. I have been in a continuous conversation with Jeremy, on behalf of the EAC, just regarding restoring dunes or working with the seawalls that are currently there. Following Lake Park, they have goals of raising their seawalls, considering sea level rising. So I had questions on what's maybe council's future goal on that, and obviously we haven't had that conversation. So that's kind of why I was voting for the moratorium, so we could have those conversations. And then for full transparency, I did have a 2-second conversation with Mr. Perko. I had asked him regarding this property at 300 Beach Road, that the next time he comes to one of our meetings, if he or someone on his behalf could solve the mystery of the rumor of if 300 Beach Road and 250 Beach Road were going to be combined, but looking at what is on the backup, clearly that is not the case. So is that correct? 300 and 250 are not going to be combined?
At this point, we had not thought of combining it, as from what I understand, so, but we certainly don't have a problem in the next few weeks before we come back to talk about it. We can
No, but there's a lot of residents that have been
Yeah.
asking, at least myself, and it's kind of
Understand.
floating out there. So I am a believer in the source, answer questions. So I had asked him next time he comes to our meeting if he could just answer that question for our residents.
Okay.
Or somebody. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I just wanted the public
Right.
to know that I had a 2-second conversation with Mr. Perko about that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I think stepping back and allowing more time for more conversation, more discussion, in light of what, the mayor has said and in light of what I think other people have expressed, I think makes a lot of sense. And as I said earlier, it's very, very important that we have developers who are responsive and responsible and work hand in hand with the community to deliver product. And I think the gentleman said before, Beach Road is pretty unique, and I do think there's a tremendous opportunity to do something really special. I think the idea of combining the properties actually makes a lot of sense. These two locations are different than Seaglass. Seaglass had the benefit of the park to the north, the park to the south, the intercoastal across the street, the ocean to the east. That's not the case here. I mean, these buildings are situated amongst other buildings that already exist. So I think we want to be very thoughtful about, I've asked the developer to be very thoughtful about how we move forward, particularly with the price points that this building or the 250 building would be at. I don't think you want to build something that's kind of run-of-the-mill. I think you want something that truly is unique, has tremendous value, is going to be well perceived by the community, well perceived by buyers. I think, if you look at it from that vantage point, I think there's, again, a tremendous opportunity here to do something that the community will embrace, I think the market will embrace, and I think will reward the developer at the same time.
I think it goes to show you that it's better to work with people than it is against them. And so I appreciate you coming forward and giving that recommendation.
And I am committing that any client that comes to our office with another project, we will be coming here for conceptual design from this point on. I will guarantee that. Okay.
Mayor Young, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I was going to say, and as you could tell from my comments on the moratorium, I was extremely disappointed that this project did not come to us for conceptual presentation, especially considering the developer is building in Quest now and could be in the future. So with a repeat developer in the area, it really means a lot for them to work with us as a partner. and always do the conceptual presentation and, to really consider our feedback before they submit the formal application. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, if the council is inclined to reschedule this quasi judicial hearing to the September agenda, that is fine. You can do that by motion. We have 2 public comment cards. If the individuals who submitted the cards are unable to attend in September, it would be appropriate to give them the opportunity to make those public comments tonight, even though the hearing will be postponed if they can't come back.
We have Jonathan Griffiths.
Thank you. See you. Hello again. I had a number of questions I think that you all have seen, according to NILSA at any rate, regarding the development of the Savoy. I am certainly not anti-development. That's not the objective here. I was a developer for 40 years, so I get it. I was a planning and zoning commissioner for about 5 years, so I get it. So I just want to make it clear that I'm not anti-development. What I am is I'm quality development, all right? And I'm not suggesting that the Savoy is not quality. I think it will be in light of the comment made about the price points that are going to be, looking for in the project. But so with that said, I think I appreciate the developer stepping back and taking a look. I'm not really sure what the reason is for that. Whether there's some nefarious thing going on or something that would be not good for the island, but I'm glad that they are. And I think my main comments about the current project that I articulated before really have to do with the stormwater considerations for the project. And I understand, stormwater reports and studies and all that, so I would like to understand, according to the design engineer, that the new building, the proposed building, the Savoy, is going to have less runoff than the current building, the stormwater runoff. I find that hard to believe. It's a bigger footprint of a building, and so therefore, how is it going to have less runoff? Number one, and number two, I'd also like to have the design engineer explain the design of the drainage system for the project, and also how that relates to a variance that was requested that was later withdrawn with respect to how the property is going to drain.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Comments? Second person.
Allison Dudley.
Ms. Dudley.
I just want to say thank you for slowing it down, and I think John echoed a lot of my concerns, and the stormwater runoff is a huge one. I mean, also the king tides, we've had times literally where the ocean is in the back of that property as it stands right now. Those are things to consider. I'm going to reserve any more remarks till I see more, and I appreciate, again, your time and the fact that you are slowing down and really looking at this. And I agree, I think that it could be a wonderful addition to the island. I just really want it to be well done. Thank you very much.
I think we all want that.
Yep.
Mr. Gentile.
I have to tell you, this is one of the first projects in 40 years that I had more questions this morning from everyone, and I was trying desperately to do it, to answer. And we have answers for everyone, and I think that, we just want to make sure that we present it properly, okay? And we appreciate your consideration of moving it to the 8th of September. So, okay, thank you.
You have a motion?
Motion to move reconsideration to the September 8th council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Village Council, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 19, resolution number 2422.
So the resolution that's in front of you, in May of 2022, the village was one of 98 communities across Florida awarded the Resilient Florida Program Planning Grant through the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the amount of $95,000. no matching funds for that, to conduct a village-wide vulnerability assessment. The vulnerability assessment will look into the effects of climate change, sea level rise, critical infrastructure within the village limits in accordance with the requirements of Section 380.093 of the Florida statute. So the first one is the amendment to accept those funds and expend them. And then the item number 20 will go along with that, and that'll actually authorize Jones, Edmonds, and Associates to perform that and to initiate that work. So we'll take them, we have to take them individually.
Sure. Any comments from the council?
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
There's a
You
second.
take public comment?
Yep, we need to do that. Good point. Is there any public comment?
19.
19. I see no public comment. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Number 20. Number 20, same thing. Now this is the work authorization to approve Jones, Edmonds, and Associates to initiate this work and provide this study. We do have the scope of work that is on here that they will provide at the end. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the council?
I have one on the schedule. So it looks like it's gonna take over a year for this to be done, and the public outreach meetings timeframe was really long. I guess I just kind of want to understand what all's going on that's driving that timeframe. I think it's 212 calendar days.
I mean, I can get some answers for you and provide that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments from the public? Mr. Bradford.
Good evening, Thomas Bradford, 44 Chestnut Trail, Tequesta. Myself and the Environmental Advisory Committee are very much in favor of you doing a vulnerability assessment. That's very much needed, and we have made comments to that effect in the comments that we're making on the comprehensive plan and the various elements therein. But I want to make sure you understand what this assessment that is being proposed will not cover. And it will not cover, per Florida Statute 380.093, it will not cover the infrastructure of any other government that is within the confines of the village of Tequesta. For example, it does not cover FDOT and US 1. It does not cover Palm Beach County, Cato's Bridge, Beach Road, Old Dixie Highway, and most importantly, it does not cover the Loxahatchee River Environmental Control District, the sewer district, which is very unusual. Most cities, and this statute is written without any indication of a special district for a sewer district. And in this report that I have written that you haven't seen yet, in a windshield survey, I found 14 lift stations in the village of Tequesta, many of which I identified as being potentially affected by storm water, sea level rise, excuse me. And I have a suspicion that I've probably missed a third. There's probably another third of those that need to be on this list, but they're kind of camouflaged and they're hard to see, and it was a windshield survey. So what I would urge you to do, since your contractor has to abide by the statute, meaning only count on that which is in your jurisdiction, I think you ought to make sure you talk to the Loxahatchee River District and see, are they doing anything? Because I can tell you for sea level rise, because I can tell you is after Hurricanes Gene and what the other one was in 2004, we had another hurricane, and there was actually public announcements made by Loxahatchee River District for us not to take showers, for us not to flush the toilets, because people were experiencing sewage backing up into the homes because of a failure of electricity as well as influx of water into the sanitary sewer system. So it's very important to make sure that Loxahatchee is on board. Lastly, as a footnote to this, that of what I heard tonight, if you had a comprehensive emergency management plan, which most cities should have and virtually every county does have, you would have an economic element in that comprehensive emergency management plan, and you could solve this problem of who's going to do what and coordinate what relative to the North Chamber presentation they made tonight. So, for example, if you did a comprehensive emergency management plan on your own, you would be required by DOE for it to dovetail and to not be in contravention with Palm Beach County's plan. And if all of these 10 cities that they're working on did the same thing, you would solve your problem about how's this all going to be coordinated. So those are my comments. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any other comments? Do I have a motion?
I did have one question.
Yeah.
Tom, you made a statement that the law requires, usually the law requires what needs to be included. It doesn't usually say you can't go beyond that. I just want to make sure, I don't know if Keith's looked at this statute, because I have not looked at the actual statute itself, but I want to make sure that the way it's being interpreted is accurate, that we're actually prohibited from taking into account.
Yeah, while he looks at it, I'll tell you what my recollection, it says that you must, the vulnerability assessment must relate to the critical infrastructure of the county or municipality which is applying.
Right, and I understand that, but so if it relates to the critical infrastructure of the municipality, I understand we've got to be all-inclusive with respect to the municipality, but it doesn't necessarily prohibit us from looking beyond the municipality to the other areas that basically are within our, I'll call it our geographic boundaries.
It may not, but your proposal by this vendor is to do that. So if you can get them to agree to take that extra step, that's great, because then you would deal with the concern I had about the Loxahatchee River District.
Right. I've looked at the statute before. What I looked at in preparation for tonight is that the vendor doing the work indicates they're going to comply with the statutory requirements. I'm happy to look into this in more detail and report back to you. I don't recommend doing this off the cuff right now, but you know, in reviewing the agenda item, the consultant, multiple places in their scope of work and what's in your backup tell us they're going to comply with the statutory requirements. So, but I'm happy to
Yeah, I mean, I think Tom's
look
point,
further into it.
Yeah, I think Tom's point's well made, that if we're doing it, we don't take into account the areas that basically fall within our geographic boundaries that would have an immediate impact on us, then we're going to get something that's substandard unless we've already arranged for coordination with the other governmental agencies. So I think we need to maybe hold off on an agreement with the provider here until we get some clarity on this point. That would be my recommendation.
You can do that.
Is there a timeline, or we have to send the grant or anything, Jeremy?
I believe there is. I don't have that. I'm not sure. I can check on that for you.
But if we delayed it a month, I'm assuming that would not, I'm assuming we're not getting this at the last second, like we got to approve it now or we're going to lose it, so.
Well, what do other municipalities do in this
These
case?
grants are being handed out pretty much now, so everybody is sort of at the starting line, so to speak, in terms of getting this grant funding to do these analyses. Just looking at the statute quickly, there's a July 1st, 2023 date that requires the department to complete its comprehensive vulnerability and sea-rise data set. There's another 2024 deadline. Again, I can't speed read, I'm sorry. I can go back and make sure that there's not I'm comfortable advising you that if you took this up again in September, that's not going to violate any kind of deadline.
Okay. I'd like to make a
But I
motion.
guess, I mean, we're still gonna, if we had to add other areas to it, that would be separate from this grant and this money regardless, because this contract's for the exact amount of the grant, correct?
That's right.
Correct.
Correct.
I guess I'm trying to understand if there are other areas that aren't gonna be included in this, we would still need to do
Maybe extra.
this portion regardless, right?
So the question, Molly, is can we get the contractor to, as Mr. Bradford referenced, things like Old Dixie, some of these other things that are immediately adjacent, can we get them to include those in the scope of their work at the price that we were talking about, the $95,000? And I would be an advocate for attempting to get that agreement and get clarity on that point and defer this until the September council meeting and have Jeremy come back to us with what I hope would be a more comprehensive proposal.
I mean, I have no problem with this the way it is today. I have no problem asking to add those areas to it. And if we aren't crunched against the clock, I have no problem if you wanted to put it on September or if you want to do it tonight.
Yeah, I think what Molly said was right, and I feel the same way. This is something that has to be done anyway, and we've been given the money to do it, but I'd like to, what do other municipalities do in this case? Because they probably only follow the state statute, because that's all they have to do legally, you know? What would be the next step?
I don't know the timelines, but I didn't bring up what I brought up in order to cause a delay. But if one option, Mr. Johnson, would be you go ahead and sign it and you go forward, but you tell them you'd like to get some of this other critical infrastructure, and it might end up being a change order, or they may do it because they're going to be doing in that working and analyzing those areas anyway. But so there's a couple of options. It could end up being a change order. They may agree to do it for you, or maybe Loxahatchee River is doing it. You just have to coordinate that with them.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Bradford, so what I was thinking is, I think it's absolutely something we should look into, so I agree with everyone on that, but I could see this handled as a change order, even if they decide not to charge more for that, you do $0 change orders just to change the scope. So I would be in favor of approving it, but definitely by the next council meeting, understanding the areas that aren't included and if they can be added at no cost or at a cost, so we can consider that then.
Well, I think your leverage in negotiation is prior to your signing an agreement. So I hear what you're saying, but I think it would be best to defer the signing of the agreement, let Jeremy have further conversations and Keith, if necessary, with this contractor. And let's know what we're getting into. Let's know if we're signing the agreement, is it $95,000 just for the scope of work that's already been laid out? Or is it $95,000 including the other critical areas that Mr. Bradford laid out? Or if it's going to be more, let's find out what that cost is, because that cost is not going to be, as I understand it, covered by the grant. So we would need to incorporate that into our budget for the village. So I don't think the 30 days hurts us. We're going to do it. We all agree it's the necessity of it. But I'd like to know what the cost is before I sign on the dotted line.
I also think it'd be important to ask Loxahatchee River District if they've got anything going on as well.
Yeah, I'm in line with Frank here.
Do we have a motion?
I would make a motion that we defer this to the September council meeting to give the manager additional time to ferret out the issues that we brought up here this evening.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Number 21, Mr. Allen, resolution number 2522.
So this item is to amend the policy, donation policy. Recently, we did the initiative with a school drive, found that with our policy, it limits us. We can only accept donations up to $500. Outside of that, council has to accept those donations. So staff's recommending we up that limit to $5,000, knowing some of the things that we have, including the new tree donation program, a school drive where we had somebody willing to donate a couple $1,000s. This gives us an opportunity, a little more flexibility. We adopted that plan, I know, several months ago, and it was to kind of solve a problem that we didn't have a donation policy. So we put it in place now, seeing that we need to amend it a little bit and allow a little more flexibility. So that what you have in front of you is that amended policy recommended by staff.
Any comments from council?
The opportunity to eliminate some red tape and make things easier, I'm normally for. In this case, certainly am.
Yeah, I think it's fully appropriate because usually when we're taking smaller donations, $5,000 or less, it's usually because it's a time sensitive, because something has happened, or it's in the season of when something is happening. And I agree with Mr. Johnson, just eliminating that process when people are just trying to help out.
Yeah, anytime you can cut through the bureaucracy, it's a good thing. I agree with both your comments.
Mayor Young?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with it. I just don't have the history, and I wasn't sure how we came up with the amounts to begin with. So the restricted donations exceeding 500, because I think that's the one that that got hung up with the school drive, right? We had a restricted donation was specifically for a school drive that was exceeding 500, correct?
Right.
So where did that number come from to begin with?
Mr. Dunkley, I guess stole the policy from another city, and that's how we came up with that number originally. So, this is just to amend it to fit what we're doing today. That's the historical part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments from the residents? Public? No comments? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 22, Brad, you're up.
Good evening, nice to see everyone. This item is a renewal of our existing internet contract. They agreed to reduce the price by about $160 a month. It's just maintains the status quo, allows us to keep our IP range, which is important. It's pretty simple. Anyone have any questions?
I do not.
Okay.
Mayor Young, do you have any questions?
No.
Any questions from the public? I see none. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to number 23, this is the approval of health, dental, and life insurance for 2022-2023 renewals. Merlene, how are you?
I'm going to try and beat Brad's record. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, we started pretty early this year, and first of all, I want to thank Vice Mayor Stone for his suggestion that we go out and bid early in the market rather than next year. We were looking at going out next year. This had a tremendous impact on what we found out. So coming back, we have, as you know, a committee that consists of the 3 unions and 3 management reps. So I want to thank Jason from the IAFF, Ray from the PBA, and Bo from the CWA. Then there's Jeff, the finance director, and Mr. Brevity back there, the IT director, and myself on that committee. So we started in March, and our current carriers, Florida Blue, returned with a 34.9% hike. And we were fortunate to have one other company that company came in just about 5%. Now, it's remiss of me, I should introduce Rami as well. The Gearing Group is always on our committee, and she's here to any questions that you have. But just to continue, you have the actual executive cost summary. We're looking overall at a 5.6% overall increase to the village, which is $86,367, as compared to the initial 613, call it 614,000 that Florida Blue was looking at. So we are here and to ask that we go with FMIT, and they administer the United Healthcare Program. It's administered through Florida Municipal Insurance Trust. I'm just making sure I hit all the bases here. Yep. If you have any questions.
Any questions from the council?
No questions, but wow. That's all I
The
really
only
was
question I
like.
had was in terms of the deductibles, co-pays, all the various elements. Have those all fundamentally remained the same?
Just a little louder.
No, I'm sorry. I was saying, when you look at the various elements of the program in terms of co-pays, deductibles, all those things, are they basically all
Yeah,
the
we
same?
tried.
They didn't change?
It did change, but we tried to match as close as possible. It's
Okay.
not an exact match, but we stayed as close as possible. If you have any,
So you would describe any of the changes as basically being de minimis at this point?
correct.
Okay, all right. That was my only question.
Okay.
So I think that we're running into a brick wall next year. And I think that our rate's going to be close to $1 million increase next year.
You know,
And I hope I'm wrong.
I'm glad you brought it up, but I know that the fire chief spoke about the health issues that we have been having, and we'll take, as Jeremy and I said, we'll take 1 year at a time. But yet next year is going to be tougher than this year.
What kind of solutions can we have? I mean, is there anything that we can do to have maybe a base kind of
There's a lot
plan
of-
and let the employees have an option to choose up if they want additional coverage?
Yes.
We've got to have, I think,
Yeah.
some ideas here.
Yeah, there are a number of ways we can go. I mean, there is really, well, in one respect, there are limits. You're either looking at the plan, you're looking at increasing rates and so on, contributions. But I know Rami probably wants to say a few words here, but pretty much, but within that, within the plan itself, you can take a look at a number of options. So yes, you can buy up, you can have your base, you can have employees buy up. So there are certain options we can look at, and we do have a year to really think about it and start looking at possibilities.
So what I've run into in the past is that we can't make any changes because of union contracts. So
The only thing that's documented in the union contract is it's the contribution. We have to negotiate that. Right now, it's a 25%, well, there's no payment if you're on the individual plan, but there's a 25% cost sharing for family, yeah.
and that's what I'm.
That's what's in the,
So I'm getting at it. Can we, under our contracts, have two different levels? One that the village will carry, and this is going to meet these deductibles and all this fun stuff, that is, somewhere in the tune of, 1.7 million. Anything above that would have to be carried by the employee by selecting that option.
if we are changing anything in terms of what they're contributing, we have to negotiate it. So I'm not sure if that answers,
So the
your
answer is no.
question.
You wouldn't be able to have that secondary option. If we're, based on what we're negotiating, let's say with fire right now, they've already have a contract that's in place, right?
Right,
That
so
would not be in place
on
until the following.
2024, yeah. So we would have to, we would have to wait until we get to that contract year in 2024 and negotiate something with them. We're currently in negotiations with the PBA and the CWA.
Yeah, I really think this is.
But
a
we could
huge-
always reopen negotiations, next year, right, for something like this.
With fire?
You can ask.
That's what I'm saying, you can ask.
You can always ask.
Request.
You can try.
I just feel like this is a major issue that was going to bite everybody, all included, the residents, the employees, everything, so.
So to kind of, let me
If you don't mind.
add on to your comment. I'm sure Marlene and Romney's, can add to it. So, with current, if we get if we were to come up with a 34% increase next year, I mean, we'd have to dilute those benefits, and then we could probably offer, a different plan. But we just, we'd have to have that plan currently with union contracts that they wouldn't have to pay for, individual, still the same contributions for the family. However, those benefits will be a lot less just financially, probably, not knowing the market and what's going to happen. then you could offer a second tier or a different thing, but we still have to offer that same thing based on percentages and what they pay.
Right.
We would have to offer that. Now, whether those, whether it's a PPO plan like we have now, or it's a much less of a plan, that'll be, we've already started having conversations, but I had to tell Marlene, let's table it, because let's get through this one first, and we're already having conversations. We will have options next year. We're gonna have to, I think, that, we can also be very optimistic and hope that it won't be. So I'm gonna take that one for at least a couple months.
Perfect.
Right, and we have, when I say we have an excellent broker with the Gearing Group, they will be able to, any option that's out there, they will bring it to us. Yeah.
Right.
And we do have the committee that I mentioned before.
Yeah, I mean, you made the comment, you kind of have to take it year by year, because I agree with the Vice Mayor's concerns, but I will say that you, working in conjunction with Gearing Group, for a number of years, we have thought we were looking at very significant health care premium increases, and one way or another, you guys have managed to consistently bring those costs in while maintaining a high-quality program at costs less than what we might have anticipated. So, hopefully you'll be able to continue to work that magic going forward. But I think the Vice Mayor does raise some legitimate concerns, and it's good to know that we're already thinking and looking ahead as to what the impact of that might be.
At the end of the day, we want to be competitive, and that's still important too, so no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Mary Young, do you have any comments?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Any comments from the public? I see none. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, moving on to number 24.
Just gonna stand here. Yeah. Okay, what's funny tonight, there's so many persons touched on what we're facing here, and I know the senator spoke of premiums regarding property values and so on. So we put in the Gearing Group gave us a heads up that we need to put in at least 12% increase this year regarding property and casualty. And we did, and it came in at 11.1%. So that was a good estimate there. The main reason that we had this increase, property insurance, of course, and I'm just telling you as well that next year we are going out to get all the property, the values. We're gonna, yes, right. So you know what that means, right? So that's in the budget to get,
We have to get an appraisal.
to get it done.
A look, but we'll have to do an appraisal next year.
Yes, so.
Is that every 3 years?
About 4.
Every 4?
Yeah. I've lost a year or two in COVID, but yes, it's gonna end up being about 4 years. Right, so we can expect that as well. We did add the rec center, that value is $6.5 million, and so that was a sizable increase there. Also, workers' comp, we're not doing so well with that. Our mod rate went from 0.93 to 1.13, so we're gonna be hit right there. So those are the two main reasons we had such an increase. I just want to say that we continue to, it could be worse. We have what's called the drug-free workplace, which is a 5% credit to us, and a safety program premium credit of 2%. I see the fire chief has left, but both of, I'm the chair, he's the co-chair of what we do. We have a very robust program going on here, safety committee meetings and so on, drug-free workplace, and we do save roughly 7% on the premiums. So if anybody has any questions.
Any questions from the council?
Not for me.
Mary Young?
Yeah, what caused the jump in the EMR?
Injuries.
Was it injuries or what? And I guess when would we expect it to go back down?
Well, I brought the last 3 years. We had, it's mostly police and fire. I'm gonna throw them under the bus right away. the lieutenant is here. But over the last, we did see an uptick, 2018-19, there were 10, all the cases have been closed. That was a good year. Then we started to decline 2019 to 2020. We had 17 injuries, so we moved from 10 to 17. All those cases are closed. We try very hard to close them as soon as we can. 2020 to 2021, we had 28 injuries, 24 of which have been closed, and we have 2 ongoing. There's a number of cases that were pretty expensive. There's one for 126, that's the total incurred, 126,000. There's a 86,000, a 28,000, and so on. That year is impacting us right now because we look at the last 3. The current year we're in, and not to mention COVID, we do have 1 or 2 cases. There is a complication, that's about 30,000 going on there for that one, a complication arising from that. The current year we're in, we have 19 cases so far. The fiscal year hasn't ended, and this is not contributing to the mod factor right now. So it's not looking as bad. The worst year was last year. This year, the highest number I've seen is a heart that's covered, and so they have 50,000 has been set aside for that. But there are some other claims, 13,000, 8,000, and so on. So if that answers your questions, there has been an uptick. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not familiar with all of our safety procedures and safety manuals. Is that something that's needs to be revisited or has been revisited? I mean, I'm sure you guys do safety training for the appropriate departments too. I'm curious if anything was done with the jump there.
Yes, we do have a lot of safety. The departments, I can tell you, I wish they were here, but yes, they do have some serious safety programs in place. But we do every now and again have training. We may get some injuries from training. There's not much we can do when we have a heart and lung, and we had 2 of those. You can't plan for those. So I do know that they have good safety programs in place, and every single incident or accident that is discussed at our quarterly meeting, and we focus on how could we have done it better. Nobody who said, there's a form that has to be completed at the department level every time there's an accident or injury. There's a section that has to be filled out. We send it back if you don't complete it. Why did this happen? How could it be prevented in the future, and so on. And the committee, which is made up of all the departments, utilities, HR represents this building, and then all the other department, Parks and Rec and so on, we meet every quarter and we talk about injuries, accidents, and liabilities if somebody trips and fall as well, not just internally, but we talk about all of that and how to make it better, and we do follow up. So, yes.
Okay, thank you for explaining. And it's not, I'm not asking about the EMM. I mean, the EMF factor does, correlate with insurance, but it comes down to safety of all the employees, and that's what's important. So I just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can from a safety standpoint.
Yes, thank you.
I can tell you from the private sector, when I used to manage over 100 employees that did nothing but hard labor, working in steel, welding, concrete, outside, inside, we would probably average between 1 and 0 a year. And so it's hard to comprehend the numbers that we're seeing. And I don't know, it'd be interesting to look further into it, maybe offline, but it is, it's just hard.
So, yeah, sometimes aging as well has.
I can tell you these employees were not any younger.
Okay, yeah, we're
yeah, I'm in the construction industry as well, so I have the same insight that Vice Mayor Stone just said. So, but my questions are kind of related from that as well.
Yes.
Any other questions from the council? Comments? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Awesome. Thank you very much.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Closing it up. Number 25. Stroud.
So this is the item that we discussed a couple times now. We brought it in a workshop format back in December. We have discussed it offline and online back in August 1st at the workshop. We discussed it. We did not have a consensus whether we were going to move forward with this or not, so it was recommended that we push it to council, have a vote on it, maybe further discussion, then have a vote on it, whether you want to direct staff to follow through and come up with some funding options to proceed to expedite the water line replacement program for the AC pipes throughout the village. You know, currently our plan calls for, I believe, 60% of our pipes to be replaced within the next 10 years. You know, we have seen a plan from Robert Ory and Raf Tellis, two different options, one I think at 80% and one at 100%. Council did not have agreement one way or another, and so you know, it lacks direction, staff lacks direction, so this item will hopefully provide some clarity one way or another.
Any comments from the council?
I know we talked about this pretty extensively last time. My view remains the same, that I think the sooner we get on top of this, the more cost-effective the replacement program will be. If we have pipe failures and we incur expenses so that we're repairing pipes and you know, it's disruptive to those who have been impacted, those repairs cost us money. Those repairs will not include complete pipe replacement unless an area is already scheduled. So while I hate to increase the cost here, as the Vice Mayor said earlier, water is so fundamental to all of us, to life, and having a system, and we've already addressed this with rate increases to make sure the plant is taken care of. I think making sure we have an adequate distribution system that's properly funded and is modernized as needed is also equally critical. So I'm in favor of scenario 3. I'm in favor of, I think Mr. Bradford made the suggestion we include this as just part of the base price for water, and I'm in favor of going ahead and making that move. I think in the long run, it's going to save our taxpayers money. It'll ensure and guarantee, hopefully, the delivery of high quality water without significant interruptions. And as I said, I think it's going to be the most cost-effective approach to the problem.
So I had a question, but I need to lead you into a little bit of where my question's going to end up, because I was not here at the workshop when you guys discussed it. However, I did follow later when I had access to internet, the conversation. And I do agree with Mayor Young that I have a hard time, again, charging the residents again for something when everything else is going up. But Vice Mayor Stone mentioned something at the end, I believe. Even if we started at something, even if it wasn't the highest rate to start charging, if we just start at something to get the ball rolling. And really that's where I'm sitting right now, is let's not go full force with the way the economy is right now, but if we start the ball rolling, could we add or raise it later in time when things are better for residents? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking at Mr. Allen, we wouldn't be locked into, so if we started with scenario 1 right now, considering what our world is, and then later, if things get better, we could always raise it. Yes?
We can provide multiple
Okay.
scenarios for you if that's what you choose. I mean, I had a conversation with Raptelis that was very similar to that, is if we wanted to, start to increase those rates at least on a small amount so we can get there, and that way we're not, going, straight to, an additional $20 or whatever that is. I mean, so there's a lot of different ways we can go, and we can bring back options if that is what council directs staff to do. We can provide those options again and actually have a vote, at a meeting.
I can tell you, I'd like to see where we are at least funding our 10-year projects at least a 75% ratio. And that might fluctuate from year to year, but at least we have that 75% goal that we are in the process of continuing to maintain our water source. Obviously, that gives flexibility if there was something more pressing to maybe put that forward, but at least we have that mindset. And obviously, there's a reason to make an adjustment, then the staff will come forward and make that recommendation. But I'm not sure if that makes sense or not, but that's kind of what I'd like to at least see. Versus 60.
Yeah, I'd like to, I agree with a lot of the comments that have been said, and, water and public safety are our two most important resources, and it is critical to upgrade our water distribution system, the water mains. But I would like to hold on this until after our August budget meeting. I mean, I think there's still some things to be discussed with the budget process. I've been talking to Jeremy to put together some different scenarios of, maybe putting down a large payment on the fire trucks and then using ARPA funds to fund at least 1 year, first year of acceleration, to give the residents a little relief. So I just think there's maybe some other options and ideas we can discuss at the budget workshop, and then vote on it in September. I still really have a hard time, at least for this next fiscal year, increasing this fee even more than the original, 3.5% increase that we were already having to the residents right now. And then one question, Jeremy, I think you were looking into the vulnerability assessment. Is it just stormwater and like elevations and stuff, or are they looking at water distribution as well?
It's just stormwater, sea rise, those assets that contribute to that.
Okay, so they won't be looking at, okay, so that was my other question. If they're looking at the water utility as well, would we want to wait on that report? But sounds like they're not, so moot point.
Any comments
That's all I had.
Any comments from the public? I see one.
I deal with a number of municipalities, and you guys are not alone. If they have a water system, they're dealing with the exact same thing you are. I was shocked the other day to see Town of Palm Beach has AC pipe. I never knew it for all the years I worked there. But they're struggling with it. They've got it's $245 million issue that they have. But remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. And, I try to find something along the lines of what you mentioned at the last time about, do a little bit, but my comments were basically, I thought you were making it overly complex by talking about doing a non-ad valorem assessment. But, you got a lot of increases coming here, so I think it behooves you to try to find a way to ease into things if you can, and things should get better over time.
Right.
Thanks.
So does anybody like to make a motion on this one? From the aspect, I think you've either asking staff to come back with some options or a motion to deny this.
So
I
more-
like options.
So more options in regards to one of the scenarios or all the scenarios, or different, or completely different options? I'm looking at Jeremy. Is that what you were talking about? Completely different options?
Yeah, I mean, we can bring back the options and say, now there's a target of 75%. And if you guys are all in agreement with that, of shooting for that and see what that looks like, and you can vote on that specifically. Or we can come back with, 3 options, and you guys can vote and make a motion, hey, we'll take this option or this option. I mean, it'd be nice to have kind of a direction, and we're all on board with trying to move in the right direction. I mean, that would be ideal in my world. I know that doesn't always happen, but it'd be good to have a little bit of direction with that motion, other than just bring back options.
Okay.
If you guys have a target that you want to look at, and you guys can agree on that. If not, if it's just a general motion, we'll bring back options and you can vote on it that way.
Well, I would like to see what the number would be for the 75%, without really seeing that number. But
Well, you actually almost have it. $6 a month gives you 70%.
yeah, I am leaning towards that. So I lean towards options on, maybe 2 options we could do to keep the rate low on the residents for the.
So maybe a 70% and 75%.
My concern, though, if we're going to do this kind of assessment, then I think there needs to be a risk assessment to say, okay, if we don't move forward, and because again, the way this came about is there was discussion about wanting to accelerate the replacement, and right now we're looking still at an 8 or 9 year project. If we defer it, what kind of risks are we taking on in terms of failures of pipe around the system, and what additional costs might those risks entail? And I think you can look historically at what's happened in the past But as the pipe ages, and I don't know if there's, what sources you might be able to look at, but you'd want to do a forward-looking risk assessment to say, okay, if we don't take action to fully fund this, are there additional costs we're looking at above and beyond because of pipe failures as we continue to move forward, realizing that most of these pipes that are in the ground are 60, 70 years old. So, you know, again, this is not a simple black and white analysis, in my opinion. There's a lot more going on here, and I understand not wanting to put more on the residents than necessary, but again, to do 100% within the scenario that we originally targeted, hopefully, assuming inflation slows down and we don't have dramatic costs, because as the Vice Mayor pointed out last time, if you look at the original study that was done a number of years ago, the cost has already increased dramatically. So we've all talked about not kicking the can down the road. We, have addressed a lot of our infrastructure issues. I don't want to see us kick the can down on this. I don't think we're doing our residents any favors. And quite honestly, I'm going to be very straightforward. I think most of our residents can afford $16.50 a month. I don't think that's going to be too onerous on anybody in this village.
So I'm not concerned about having failures. I believe that the village has done a very good job of doing the research necessary and coming up with a good plan to have it under control, and I believe it is, and head in the right direction, even at that 60% what we're doing already. My biggest concern is I believe it's going to be cheaper for the residents to do it now versus 10 years from now.
Well, that's the other component.
And I believe
Right.
that interest rates are going to continue to get higher, and it's going to get more and more and more expensive. So I think it's prudent and more financially better for the resident to hit it harder now. And that's where I'm coming from.
Well, that's the other part of it. But I do think there is a cost of pipe failures, and even though
There is.
and even though
There
we've
is.
and we've had them, and we've had to allocate monies to address those things. And again,
Well, Jeremy, do we have any idea how many pipe failures we've had, say, in like the past 5 years that weren't a result of the contractor hitting them?
I do. I'm trying to sort it right now. I have that. Give me 1 minute. Let me get you the number. I have an Excel spreadsheet. I gotta get the
You've
I
got
gotta
that
count
3-minute timer you can use.
Like we need the Jeopardy music right.
So since through start of last 2 years, we've had 20 breaks in the AC pipe lines, and 6 of those were caused by the contractor. And so you're looking at 14 AC pipe breaks due to something other than a contractor that has caused that.
But I'm sorry, was that the past 5 years? I didn't really hear you say.
Past 2 years.
2 years.
Past 2 years, okay.
70 year.
The first date I have is September 17th of 2020 is how far we went back. So on this report.
And granted, each crack or break is a little different. I mean, what have we spent on fixing those?
Oh, I don't have that number. Molly asked that before. That's why I have that prepared. She prompted me. If you would have prompted me, I would have had that number though.
but as the system ages, I think you would expect to see an increased failure rate as we go forward.
I
And
understand.
again, so I don't want to
But we have a lot of old things in DeQuesta, like it's not just our pipes, like we're playing catch up with a lot of things.
I'm just saying $16.50 a month, I think is affordable for people in this village. And I think, as Vice Mayor said, it is the most economically efficient way of addressing the problem. We'll still have some pipe failures, but hopefully we'll limit some of those, and we won't have money being wasted on repairs where ultimately there's going to be replacement. And I said, I just don't want to kick this can down the road. I think we're in a position where we can move it forward and move it forward in a reasonable manner.
So I don't know if I would need to make a motion, but I am actually going to go with Mayor Young and say we postpone this decision until after we finish the budget.
So let me ask a question. Does this need to be, is this a budgeted item that would impact the budget? if we decide to do one or the other?
I don't think so, not
Yeah,
this
'cause
time. I think
we
we
can add
just
it to the
need,
warrant.
really need to start leaning forward if we're, depending on how we're gonna do it as an assessment, whatnot, to
Right.
really make sure that we're leaning forward. I mean, I think you can initiate that process anytime, but, just making sure that give us plenty of time to prepare that. So, I mean, it can be done today, it can be done, a year from now, but, I mean, that's up to you guys.
The reason I was financing the budget workshop is because I had Jeremy looking into putting some ARPA funds down for the fire trucks, financing the balance, and using ARPA funds to fund the first year of acceleration for one of the scenarios.
Well,
I would like us to discuss that. Like I said, I don't disagree with, I think, 75%, that's a good target, but I absolutely don't disagree with accelerating. I would just like to have one more budget workshop and see if there's, discuss as a council, if there's any other ways we could, give the residents a little relief right now, not charge them an additional utility fee.
I think the relief we'd be giving them right now would be state of mind.
Yeah.
Frank, you've mentioned kicking the can. I think it's irresponsible of us to be kicking this can down the road. I think we've been talking about it for months now. I think it's time to act.
And just so you know, I mean, and Frank probably knows this, this conversation, speaking with Raf Tellis, who's been with the village for many years, this conversation about AC pipes goes back just past a year or two. I mean, we're talking, 10 to 15 years, this same conversation
Right.
with, replacing these AC pipes. And, I mean, I don't have the exact historical, but the people who have been around here have, expressed that to me that, we've been talking about it for a while. And I'm not trying to lean you one way or another, but.
I just want to clarify, Councilmember Brandon made a motion, I believe.
I was asking if I would need to make a motion
Well,
to
I think we
postpone
need
it
a
to
motion
after
to
the
do
budget.
something.
Yeah.
Whether it's take action tonight or postpone.
Can I make a motion?
You could pass the gavels to Mr. D'Ambra if you want to make a motion.
Do you want me to make a motion?
Would you like to make?
Go ahead. So I want to make a motion in, that we allow staff to come back with 3 options. One at a scenario of 70% funded, 75% funded, and 100% funded. And that they bring those back to us after the next budget meeting.
After how long after the budget meeting?
Right after.
Right after.
Soon thereafter, the next council meeting.
That's
Next
September 8th.
available agenda that we can get on workshop, we will bring that to you guys. So we won't necessarily commit to a date today, but shortly after that.
I think peace of mind can wait another month, but it's time
All right, do it.
to do this, right?
All right, do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I'm opposed.
Yeah, I am too.
3-2.
Opposed.
So we'll defer it for 1 month.
So Aaron was opposed and.
Very good.
Okay.
So what's gonna happen?
We're deferring it for a month.
Okay.
Three new numbers.
All right, one more.
Okay, that closes that up. Any other matters in the council?
For one of the workshops, hopefully sooner than later, I brought this up once before, but, we've talked about the parks, we've talked about the need for funding for the parks, and if we were going to, and I know Jupiter's done this in the past, and I think the Vice Mayor had made mention of this, maybe a couple of years ago, where they created a pool of money that they had so that they could act on opportunities with respect to parks, whether it was the acquisition of land or improvements that they would like to make. Such a funding request would go to the voters as a referendum. So ultimately, the voters would be the ones who made the determination if they wanted to, in fact, tax themselves, so to speak, for some additional money to create that pool. I think we have opportunities with Remembrance Park. We've talked about Tequesta Park. We may still have an opportunity with respect to Paradise Park, for that matter. So I would like the council to at least have a discussion around this, consider it. We would still have time to get it onto the March ballot if we were to move relatively quickly, along with the charter amendments that are going to be voted on. But I think there's some opportunities here, and again, we can always still apply for state grants, still apply for state appropriations, and to the extent that we're successful in those, subject to whatever the call provisions would be on a bond, we could redeem them early. And if we redeem them early, obviously then the residents would not be obligated to pay any amounts that were redeemed early. But I just think there's opportunities for us. Not having that pool, not having it available, for example, in the last year or two, cost us opportunities that we might have liked to have acted upon. And, you know, we've talked about wanting to maintain green space, create opportunities, you know, for residents in the village. So I would like to have this discussion in earnest to get a feel for where the council stands. And like I said, ultimately it would go to the voters and they would make the final determination whether they would be supportive of this initiative or not. So
I'm okay with it.
That's fine.
So we're gonna workshop that at the next workshop or the next, I guess, soon, if we're gonna be talking about that, yeah.
Slot.
Just keep adding to it.
No more than 4.
Yeah, and we keep talking about this and from when we had the Master Parks presentation, I thought we directed staff to look at all the funding opportunities and options that are listed in the comp plan. Is that not happening?
this doesn't preclude that, Molly. This would be in addition to it. Obviously, again, anything we can do that raises, like I mentioned grants and appropriations, but if we were able to secure some private funding, you know, all those things would add to the kitty. And again, to the extent that they offset the need for utilization of the bond money, you can retire the bonds early and reduce. The,
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And the bond is one of them, but I guess it would be nice to talk about all of them. So I would just want staff to be prepared.
Yeah, that's fine.
The comp plan is reviewed, and yeah, we review all of them, including the bonds. It's all tied together. I think we should look at it as a whole for sure.
Okay.
So the step forward was, as I know the EAC is taking the parks comp plan up. They're going to have some recommendations, and the plan or the idea at the time was to see what recommendations they had and kind of piggyback off that on having an additional item that we talked about funding options for parks, and so it was all one topic. But with this specific scenario where time is of the essence, we may need to, need to talk about that as an individual item.
Well, we'd have to zero in on it as a component. The other thing I wanted to just let the council know, if Jeremy hasn't talked to you about it, because we just found this out, the Paradise Park acquisition is deferred until such time as the people who are proposing to purchase it could actually develop a plan, bring it to the council for review, bring it then to P&Z and back to the council for approval. So there is an indefinite postponement depending on how quickly they move on those things, and there's no guarantee that the council will approve, obviously, whatever comes forward. So there's no guarantee that purchase will take place. So the Paradise Park opportunity may still be there for us in the future as we move forward.
So I have one thing, unless you have another.
I had something that had nothing to do with our agenda. I just wanted to wish our officer Eric a happy birthday because it just occurred, and he doesn't usually get a lot of recognition because he doesn't get to patrol around and stop at bus stops and all that. And he has been working incredibly hard and many, many hours and many, many days, and he has just done some really good stuff that is now coming towards DeQuesta with those raids.
Yeah.
So happy birthday, Eric.
Yeah, if you're out there listening.
He might be.
I'm sure it is.
He's probably drinking his puppuccino.
Oh, I had one last thing I want to say. Lieutenant Smolin has now been guarding us for, almost a year now, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you. You guys make sure we're safe in here. You look out for us. You look out for our well-being. And you've done a great job with it, and I just want to thank you for your service, sir.
So I have one thing to add that I think we should talk about in the next budget meeting. It's been real important for me to make sure that we have funding sources for capital, that we constantly are replacing or using just to make sure that we're constantly maintaining it. And so but it's also important to me that we purchase things outright and not use leverage to buy stuff. And so with purchasing the 2 fire trucks, and I know, Molly, you want to continue to talk about that, which I'm okay with, but using funds to purchase that, I have concern that in the future, we're going to be in the same position we were years ago, where we weren't able to go and purchase or fund any fire trucks. That's why they're being kicked down. And so I was recently on a long drive to North Carolina back and had a lot of screen time to come up with an idea of actually utilizing the funds that we receive from Palm Beach County and the contract that we have, and designating a portion of that to go strictly towards capital for fire trucks and ambulance. And so I'd like to at least have that conversation. That, to me, I think that is at least a good place to put it, and make sure that it is being recycled and used, because we're buying something every 4 or 5 years.
Well, hopefully it won't be that every 4 or 5, but.
Well, we are. I mean,
Well, we are right now, you're
with,
right.
with ambulances, fire truck. I mean, there's always something happening.
But I agree with you. We do need to have reserves so we have cash on hand so we can initiate the purchases.
And if you're just moving a little bit over, I mean, it's gonna take years to get where we would need to be anyway, so I think it's a great idea.
In theory, I mean, just, and the staff to come up with some numbers to see what that right number is.
Right.
And go from there.
That makes sense.
And I think that's great, and I've talked about this with Jeremy, because Vice Mayor Stoney brought that up before, that we need funding for that, and I'd really like to, add some of the, we talk about funding for fire trucks, capital projects, accelerating things, underground utilities we're talking about now, funding parks, we're talking about coming up with funding for a lot of different things. I think we should really do a good job prioritizing them a little bit better on the strategic plan, because they're all very important, but they all can't happen at once. So thank you for doing the research. I think that's great, and definitely need to discuss it. I think we need to be really, really good about prioritizing all the funding needs as we discuss them all on the strategic plan next time we meet. Which I think, Jeremy, what are we piggybacking the strategic plan with? Next, what are we piggybacking?
Ask that question one more time, I'm sorry.
The next strategic plan update?
What we're gonna do with the budget workshop, similar to what we did, I believe, last year, is we're gonna show the strategic plan and tie the budget numbers into that strategic plan to show, the priorities and what we funded in the budget. And so that will, open up that conversation strategically about, prioritizing. I think if it sounds like that's what you wanna do. And so next budget workshop, we will have the strategic plan initiatives in there to discuss as well.
Great, thank you.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you, Molly, for what you're doing up there.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye.